Welcome, everyone. My name is Charlie McPherson, and I'm going to be the facilitator for this afternoon's hearing. My job today is to try to get as many people to share their comments and to maintain a safe and secure environment for all of us. So to help achieve those objectives, I just want to review a couple of the ground rules. Everyone should have received or picked up an agenda that are on the back tables or as you came in. If you don't have one, you may want to get one in the back. It has the ground rules on it. The first thing we want to do is just make sure we show courtesy to all the speakers and minimize any disruptions. All that's going to do is slow down the process, and we may not be able to hear from everyone today. Also, for the speakers, we have set time limits, again, just so we can hear from as many people as possible, and please adhere to those time limits. We will be having a clock up on the screen to help you with that, so you shouldn't have any trouble there. Also, if you have any cell phones or pagers, if you could please turn those to vibrate or off. And if you will be having any conversations or need to make a call, please go outside of the hearing area, again, just as a courtesy for speakers. As you can see to my left, we do have sign language interpreters today for anyone who may need that service. I don't think, as far as I know, that there is anyone that needs it, but if there is, could you please stand up so we can make sure that you're close to the stage? Okay, I don't see anyone, but we will keep them for the first part of the hearing just to make sure we have that covered. Also on your agenda, on the back side is a form that you can use to submit any written comments you have today. You can leave those comments out by the registration table. I want everyone to know that these comments, as well as your oral statements today or any other materials that you submit, will be made part of the administrative record. We will also be making a full transcript of today's hearing so that if you are speaking, please speak very clearly so the court reporter can capture all of that information. We will be calling the speakers in groups, in blocks of 10 to 20, and when I call your number, I'd like you to go to the back area near the entrance where you came in, where you'll meet with our facilitation staff, and they'll just give you a briefing on the process for making statements. So at this time, I'd like the first block of 1 to 20, and you should have, if you have signed up to speak, you should have a blue form. And even if you signed up online to speak at the registration table, you should have picked up a blue form. Okay, so those with numbers 1 through 20, please go to the back right room to the person holding up the 1 and 2 sign. And I'll be giving more instructions when it's time to make the oral statements, just to be clear for everyone. But at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Jim Giatina, who's the presiding officer for this hearing.
Thank you, Charlie. Good afternoon. I'm Jim Giatina. I'm Director of the Water Protection Division for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's regional office in Atlanta, Georgia. EPA's regional administrator has designated me to conduct this public hearing. I have with me this evening Mr. Mark Newfer, who is chief of our Municipal and Industrial Permit section, and I certainly want to thank the city of Pikeville, thank you, for their, I should probably use my glasses, City of Pikeville for their hospitality and allowing us to conduct this hearing. Let me start by thanking you for taking the time to be here this afternoon. We recognize that coal mining operations are critically important in Kentucky and for meeting our energy needs as a nation. We recognize that many of you are worried about jobs. We also know that you're concerned about the impacts mining may have on your health and environment. The purpose of this hearing is to listen to your concerns, especially as they relate to the 36 permits EPA has objected to that are the subject of this hearing. I want to note that EPA and the Kentucky Energy and Environment Cabinet have been working over the past 2 years to identify a set of common sense practices and appropriate permit conditions that we believe will protect and improve water quality while addressing the industry's concern for clarity and cost effectiveness. Most of these practices have been developed by experts here in Kentucky and are beginning to be implemented at local mines. For example, some mining companies are redesigning mines to reduce the number, size, and location of fills. They are more carefully monitoring pollution levels and stream biology at their mines and using real-time adaptive management techniques to prevent problems downstream. They are beginning to find, target, and isolate specific sources of pollutants to keep them away from the water. And this is the kind of innovation and care that will help ensure coal mining remains a vibrant part of the local economy. Our desire at EPA is for the Commonwealth to move forward and issue permits that require these kinds of innovative approaches and that have appropriate pollutant limits to protect water quality. Let me briefly give you some additional background information that is important for you to understand as you make your oral or written comments. The permits we are discussing are water discharge permits, known as National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, or NPDES permits. These are required by the Clean Water Act. An NPDES permit is the basic tool for controlling water pollution, and it contains conditions and limitations to protect water quality and its many uses such as fishing, swimming, canoeing, and as a source of drinking water. The Clean Water Act requires that NPDES permits include pollutant limits stringent enough to ensure that discharges do not cause violations of the Commonwealth's own water quality standards. As part of the permitting process, Kentucky provides copies of draft NPDES permits to EPA for our review. And since August of 2009, based on information provided by the Kentucky Division of Water, the division has issued individual NPDES permits for approximately 87 surface mining projects and 28 underground mines or coal preparation plants. Additionally, the division has allowed approximately 2,500 new and existing coal mining projects to proceed under its general permit authority. Over the past 2 years, EPA has objected to the issuance of a number of permits drafted by the division, 36 of which remain and are the subject of this hearing. While the majority of mining projects that need NPDES permits in Kentucky have received authorization to go forward, EPA remains concerned with mining discharges. In 2010, the Kentucky Division of Water estimated that at least 1,522 miles of Kentucky's rivers and streams are threatened or impaired due to mining. Recent studies, as well as the experience of coalfield communities, point to new environmental challenges largely unknown even 10 years ago. Sediment, salts, and metals that run off from poor mining practices can destroy the habitat that sustains fish and other forms of aquatic life in eastern Kentucky waterways. They threaten sources of drinking water and can affect the quality of life for the people of this region. Our objections to these 36 draft permits are based on the same fundamental concern, that permits must be strong enough to control pollution from these mines, pollution that can harm human health and aquatic life. So this afternoon, we are here to listen to the concerns you have about these permits. In particular, it is important that we receive any specific information you have with regard to these mines and the waters they discharge to. Now, I know we are limited in how many people can speak today. I encourage everyone who's interested in contributing comments and unable to speak tonight to do so in writing, and the contact information is provided at the table in the back. The public comment period will close on June 21st. I want to emphasize at this point that no final decisions have been made. After considering all of the comments, the data, and information received on the permit objections, EPA's regional administrator in Atlanta will make a decision to reaffirm, modify, or withdraw each of the original objections. Once these decisions have been made, we will notify the Kentucky Division of Water, each of the permit applicants, and all those who have registered and provided a mailing address. Our decisions will also be posted on EPA's website. If we withdraw any objections, the Kentucky Division of Water will be able to move forward and issue those permits. If we reaffirm or modify any objections, the Division of Water can send us revised draft permits within 30 days that address our concerns. If for some reason we cannot reach agreement with the division, then EPA will issue a permit for those particular mines. However, as I said earlier, I am hopeful that we will be successful in reaching agreement on these permits and that the state will move forward to issue them. So this is our opportunity to hear directly from you. I want to thank you again for being here and for participating in this process. And at this time, I'll turn it back to Charlie, who will facilitate the remainder of the hearing. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. I just want to remind, if anyone has a speaker number 1 through 20, at this time, you should go in the back of the room. Can you free yourself from the tape there? Just rip it off. It's okay. Terrific. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Secretary Peters of the Kentucky Energy and Environment Cabinet to make opening remarks, who will be followed by Commissioner Bruce Scott of Kentucky Department for Environmental Protection.
Thank you very much, Charlie. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, and it's always a pleasure to be in Pike County and in Pikeville. Okay, it's always a pleasure to be here. I am Len Peters, and I'm Secretary of Kentucky's Energy and Environment Cabinet. And on behalf of Governor Steve Beshear, I want to thank Region 4 for conducting this hearing to receive comments on their objections to Clean Water Act permits for surface mining operations in eastern Kentucky. Today's hearing is unprecedented in Kentucky. Also unprecedented is the state feeling compelled by matters of principle to sue the U.S. EPA, which we did in 2010 because of what we deemed to be arbitrary and inconsistent application of policies governing mining operations. My comments today regarding EPA's objections to these permits, therefore, are consistent with the concerns we have expressed for more than 2 years now regarding this issue. As someone responsible for overseeing the state's environmental protection programs, I support and am in fact obligated to enforce regulations necessary to protect our land, air, and water resources. We can and must do all that is reasonably possible to protect our environment and the lives and health of our citizens. We have federal and state laws and regulations that not only guide this process, but that bind us so that our decisions are not arbitrary, political, or otherwise without basis. Environmental permitting is not designed to stop legitimate business activities, whether we are talking about a mining activity, a manufacturing facility, or a water treatment plant. Rather, permitting is to ensure these activities are done in accordance with existing laws and regulations. Regulators and a regulated community need certainty in this process. In addition, regulators and a regulated community need to be assured the decisions are made fairly and reasonably based on accepted scientific studies and analysis. The Energy and Environment Cabinet and the U.S. EPA have an important partnership and we share the same mission to protect human health and the environment and to ensure environmental protection laws and regulations are implemented and enforced fairly and reasonably. Kentucky cannot simply reject surface mining permit applications that are in accordance with existing laws and regulations. Despite the rhetoric from some, surface mining, including mountaintop removal mining, is a legal form of mining that occurs on privately owned land. We follow the Federal Surface Mining Control Reclamation Act, the Clean Water Act, and other federal provisions in operating the Kentucky program. Coal can be and is being mined in an environmentally responsible manner. We continue to make improvements, and the industry has been willing to do things better. For example, the Beshear administration initiated a novel approach to ensuring enhanced environmental protection of surface mining operations through a fill minimization protocol, a protocol that should have been embraced by the EPA but was not. All sources of energy production and use, even renewables, have an environmental impact, but existing laws and regulations are in place to minimize impacts and to reclaim mined land. That is why it is disconcerting to us that EPA has applied a specific benchmark, that is conductivity, to Appalachian coal mining, a de facto standard that has been based on what should be very narrowly interpreted incomplete science, not one that should be a surrogate measure of overall water quality. I read an opinion piece in the paper this week that even misrepresents the facts by saying that conductivity is a measure of contamination. The EPA knows, and I know, that simply is not true, and yet many people do not know otherwise. Governor Beshear and I recognize and respect that EPA has a responsibility and obligation to revise and update regulations and program requirements as necessary to protect human health and the environment. However, EPA should not create new regulatory requirements that have not undergone the appropriate congressional or rulemaking processes. As it is, EPA is preventing, through its objection process, Kentucky, a delegated state, from issuing permits with no recourse for us or for the regulated community or for the thousands of Kentuckians who depend on mining for their livelihoods. We should not allow a few studies that have credible counterpoints, to determine the economic destiny of one region of the country. We have allowed rhetoric and misinformation to overwhelm what should be a legitimate discussion on very important issues: jobs, human health, the environment, and the rational application of administrative oversight. I will close by saying that I appreciate the efforts of the staff within Region 4. They worked closely with our cabinet to arrive at a solution to move these permits forward. We were assured by headquarters that if we were to reach an agreement, which we did, that EPA would honor that agreement. Unfortunately, that ultimately was simply not the case, and many months later we are still experiencing the consequences of headquarters' actions. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Good afternoon. My name is Bruce Scott. I'm the Commissioner of the Kentucky Department for Environmental Protection. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comments today regarding EPA's pending objections to 36 draft KPDS permits for discharges associated with coal mine operations in eastern Kentucky. The Commonwealth of Kentucky has been delegated authority by U.S. EPA to administer the NPDES program in Kentucky since 1983. Since 1983, there have been tens of thousands of NPDES permits proposed and issued by Kentucky for wastewater and stormwater discharges across the Commonwealth, ranging from individual homes to cities to industries and to coal mining operations. The agency is aware of only one prior instance where an EPA permit objection of a Kentucky proposed draft NPDES permit may have occurred. That was approximately 25 years ago for an industrial operation. No previously proposed NPDES permit for a coal mine operation has ever previously been objected to. However, Since April of 2010, EPA has objected to approximately 40 proposed NPDES individual coal mining permits and has approved only one individual NPDES permit for a new or expanded surface mine operation in eastern Kentucky. Since receiving NPDES program delegation in 1983, Kentucky has maintained conformance with federal EPA regulatory requirements. Simply stated, Kentucky's regulations and regulatory requirements are the same as the federal EPA regulations and regulatory requirements. With regard to the 36 EPA permit objections subject to the public hearing here today, it is noteworthy to point out that EPA has not made any changes to the federal NPDES regulations that are subject to these permits since April of 2010. In addition, there have been no changes to the applicable state or federal water quality standards that apply to Kentucky waters that are at issue in these permit objections here today since April 2010. The question, therefore, must be asked, what changed? What state or federal regulation has changed that has resulted in these EPA objections since April 2010? While that question remains pending, Kentucky has continued to work extensively with EPA to address EPA's evolving comments and concerns that have been expressed over the past 2+ years. Kentucky has provided numerous proposed draft permits, both formally and informally, consistent with existing state and federal regulations in an effort to resolve these objections. We remain committed and hopeful that a resolution to these objections can and will be achieved. With respect to the EPA objections themselves that are subject to this public hearing, EPA's stated concerns primarily fall into two categories. First, with respect to how the reasonable potential analysis, or RPA, was performed to determine whether the proposed discharges have a reasonable potential to cause or contribute to a violation of Kentucky's water quality standards. And secondly, the establishment of permit requirements in accordance with determinations of that reasonable potential analysis. With respect to the first issue, Kentucky followed existing EPA-approved RPA procedures, regulations, and application requirements consistent with 40 CFR 122.44 and 122.21. Specifically, Kentucky evaluated available discharge data and/or requested discharge data where it was unavailable for a new discharge, as per existing regulatory requirements and permitting procedures. With respect to the second issue, Kentucky imposed a combination of chemical-specific limitations and monitoring requirements, whole effluent toxicity limitations and monitoring requirements, best management practice requirements, and in-stream biological assessment requirements and limitations. In addition to addressing the individual parameter RPA requirements, the narrative water quality standard for conductivity and total dissolved solids is met via the combination of these permit requirements consistent with 40 CFR 122.44. In addition, the in-stream biological assessment requirements are designed to address the site-specific nature of the receiving stream as specified in the narrative water quality standards cited in 401 KR 10031, Section 4.1F. In light of these facts, the state respectfully requests that EPA withdraw its permit objections. We look forward to continuing to work with EPA in our ongoing effort to bring resolution to these issues in a timely manner. Thank you again for the opportunity to provide these brief comments. We will be providing additional written comments on these objections before the close of the comment period. Thank you.
Thank you for the opening remarks. Now we'd like to move on to receiving the public comments. And I know I've got the speakers 1 through 20. If the next group, 21 to 30, could go to the back of the room, the back right, to receive your instructions. Thank you. So as you come up to the microphone, please state your name, first your number, your speaker number, then your name, spell your name, we are making a transcript, and your organization, if you're representing any. Also, if you're referring to any specific permits, please let us know that as well. At that point, we will start the timer, which you'll see up on the wall there, and you have 2 minutes to make your remarks. We will, at the end of the 2 minutes, you'll see it flash, but also the microphone will gradually go silent so that we can move to the next speaker. Okay, so I think everyone understand? Great. So with that, I think we'll start with speaker number 1.
I am speaker number 1.
Let's see.
I am speaker number 1. My name is Donna McClure, MC, capital C, L-U-R-E, and I am here on behalf of Kentucky's United States Senate Republican leader, Mitch McConnell, and I will be reading a statement on his behalf as he is in Washington and cannot be here. I will be making comments regarding the 36 permits. Like most of the country, Kentucky is suffering from very difficult economic times. Far too many Kentuckians are unemployed and the prospect for future employment remains daunting. It is especially irritating this administration has blindly followed policies eliminating jobs in our communities. The people of Kentucky are amongst the hardest working people on earth, but how can we be expected to compete if our own government is working against us? Simply put, my constituents are under siege from the Obama administration's regulatory agenda, and the EPA is the worst offender. These 36 objections are further proof of this siege. Perhaps the clearest example of this administration's regulatory assault is its war on coal. Since being sworn in, President Obama's EPA has set out to circumvent the will of Congress and the American people by turning the already cumbersome mine permitting process into a backdoor means of shutting down coal mines. A former senior EPA official under the Obama administration recently summed up the regulatory philosophy of the agency with respect to those working in the coal business by saying it wants to crucify them. With this radical environmental anti-coal agenda, it is no wonder the administration has failed to answer the American people's call for greater domestic energy production. The real-world impact of their fantasy world energy policy is people are losing their jobs and energy prices continue to increase. It is high time the Obama administration stops treating the Kentucky coal industry as being part of the problem. Kentucky coal is the solution.
My name is James Milliman. I'm the state director, M-I-L-L-I-M-A-N. I'm the state director for Senator Rand Paul. Senator Paul cannot be here today, so he has filed a statement. And the reason he couldn't be here today, folks, he is in Washington, D.C., as we speak, fighting the heavy-handed tactics of the EPA to protect your property rights. And he will continue to fight with every ounce and fiber of his body until we prevail over the EPA. And ladies and gentlemen, look at these people out here. These are Kentuckians. You've heard of our most famous daughter of Kentucky, proud to be a coal miner's daughter, Loretta Lynn. These are the daughters and the sons, and they're proud to be coal miners. They're proud to be children and grandchildren of the coal miners that provided energy for this state. For years, for 250 years, they worked in those mines. They risked life, they risked black lung to fuel the energy of this country. And now what happens after 250 years? We're here finally having a hearing on a permit. But can they trust the EPA? Should they have confidence in EPA to give a fair hearing? I don't think so. Not when your leader, Barack Obama, says he wants to bankrupt the coal companies. when the vice president says he wants to bankrupt the coal companies, when your own officials sit there and say they are going to treat coal companies like conquered nations of Rome when the Romans came in and crucified them. Well, we got news for you. These people, the good people of Kentucky and the coal miners, will not be conquered. And there is help on the way. There is help on the way. The government has now faced defeat in the Supreme Court. Folks, the Sackett case said the government that tried their heavy-handed tactics to take away the property rights of people were rejected in a unanimous Supreme Court. And I'm going to leave you with one last thing. Take this message back to Washington. Take this to the EPA. Take this to your president. It's a message our founding fathers gave 250 years ago to the tyrants of England, of King George. They said, "Don't tread on me." And these people are telling you, "Don't tread on me."
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Next speaker.
Speaker number 3, Danielle Smoot, D-A-N-I-E-L-L-E, S-M, M as in mountain, O-O-T. And I'm the Communications Director for Congressman Hal Rogers. I'd also like the record to reflect that the Congressman's new District Director, Chris Girdler, is here, and his Field Representative, Pat Wooten. Congressman Rogers regrets being unable to join us here today, ladies and gentlemen. He is actually, of course, in Washington fighting the same exact fight on Capitol Hill. Congressman Rogers has grave concern about the Environmental Protection Agency's strangulating regulations on Appalachian coal. In fact, earlier this year, he told EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson that the agency's behavior is contemptible. Time and again, the EPA has tried to bypass the Congress and weaken state authority, and they make no secret of this administration's intentions to shut down Kentucky coal. The permit process is now so complex that our coal operators are jumping through regulatory hoops, trying to understand the constant shift in standards and rules that don't apply to everyone. What we do know is very clear is that only one 404 individual permit has been approved for a new surface mining operation in Kentucky in 3.5 years, and folks, that is downright shameful. Congressman Rogers has made it clear that just because you are pro-coal doesn't mean you're against the environment. He is the co-founder of the Eastern Kentucky Pride organization that has invested environmental education in every school district in southern and eastern Kentucky, has inspired upwards of 33,000 volunteers to clean up our hillsides every April, and removed nearly 30,000 straight pipes from dumping sewage into our streams. In fact, some of Pride's most proud sponsors and volunteers are sitting right here with us today. They are our coal operators and coal mining families. Whether you've taken notice or not, coal operators have made great strides in reducing their environmental footprint. The EPA, we do know, has a duty to protect the environment. No one is here today to ask for environmental laws to be eliminated, but we do expect them to be applied fairly and consistently so our coal mining families can build a business, start a family, or buy a home without fear of a pink slip because another permit is on hold. On behalf of all the mining men and women of southern and eastern Kentucky, Congressman Hal Rogers asks that the EPA overturn its objections to these permits. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next speaker.
My name is W. Keith Hall. I am a member of the Kentucky House of Representatives, where I chair the Energy Committee. Thank you for being here today. We welcome you to Pike County. Kentucky and Pike County is the largest producing county east of the Mississippi. I represent that county as a fourth-generation coal miner. I'm in the coal business. I mine coal. I work in the coal industry. Kentucky coal miners have supplied this Commonwealth in America for over 100 years with reliable, dependable, economically cheap source of energy. The state of Kentucky regulates coal miners, coal operators, and coal companies alongside federal mine safety administration officials of MSHA and OSM, and we have had an excellent working relationship the last 50 years doing that. But in spite of the things that we do together regulating the industry, we have become the victim of one of the most devious and sinister attacks from the U.S. government. The EPA has pulled and withheld 36 permits from Kentucky once some of those were even approved. What the EPA has done is wrong, it is unconstitutional, and I'll back that by saying a U.S. Judge, Amy Berman Jackson, has ordered the EPA to vacate its actions against Kentucky on the grounds it has no authority nor jurisdiction to do so. Judge Amy Jackson, thank you, called the EPA's authority unreasonable, and I quote, and she pointed that the EPA has no power to revoke those 36 Kentucky permits. Judge Jackson also said the EPA's interpretation of the law that they are basing their intrusive, overreaching actions on is illogical and impractical. Judge Jackson rejects the EPA's broad view that it has unbounded authority to retroactively revoke permits issued by another agency. My question today is, will the EPA shut down an entire state's industry? And I pray not, they will. And I'm going to say one last thing is that the EPA's actions are too intrusive. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Okay, next speaker, please.
Speaker number 7. My name is Jim Ward, W-A-R-D. I'm the Letcher County Judge Executive. First, I would like to point out that Section 402D3 of the Clean Water Act gives the administrator of the EPA discretion in whether or not to review or object to permits issued by the Commonwealth of Kentucky. It is completely lawful for the EPA administrator to exercise her discretion and decide not to review permits issued by the state. Secondly, economic and social costs are mentioned numerous times throughout the Clean Water Act, and the legislative history clearly indicates that Congress did not intend overly stringent limitations to be applied to permits, especially if it would unduly impose economic and social hardship. Here are some of the examples of that hardship. Today, there are over 70 senior citizens here from Letcher County and countless other seniors from other counties. Seniors, would you please stand up? Every month, we serve 10,000 meals to seniors in my county, some of whom it is their only hot meal of the day and may be the only contact that they have with another person. Our county's budget is heavily reliant upon co-service taxes to meet these services for our seniors depend upon. These economic and social costs don't bear a reasonable relationship to the benefits that are claimed by the EPA. I'm also here today because I support the hardworking coal miners whose jobs are not only provided for their families, but also for the families of the truck drivers and the salesmen and the repairmen who sell equipment and supplies. The teenager who works at the gas station that sells pickle bologna and Coca-Cola to the miners on their way to work. The objection to these permits not only puts these hard-working coal miners out of a job, but puts essential services to seniors at risk, youth programs at risk that keep our kids out of trouble and off drugs, and would handicap the county from meeting the needs of the people, a people that get dumped on all too often because some folks think we're backwards and ignorant. I'm here today, and these seniors and miners are here today to demonstrate to the EPA that we believe in political self-determination. And if we want
Sorry. I know it's hard to get it all in 2 minutes. What I encourage everyone to do who has a statement is please leave a written copy of it so we can make sure it all gets included as part of the transcript. Thank you. Next speaker.
Ted Edmonds from Breathitt County, State Representative, Democratic State Representative for the 91st District. I was in Frankfort Tuesday night, and since I was at those hearings Tuesday night in Frankfort, I decided to take a little bit of a different approach in my comments today. The University of Kentucky owns a 15,000-acre tract of land known as the Robinson Forest. It has the single largest coal reserve east of the Mississippi River. They have mined coal in that Robinson Forest tract of property. And I would just like to share this with you. When the University of Kentucky, who is rapidly becoming one of the top 20 research institutions in this country, they're not going to be violating the law. They're not going to be doing things that are contrary to what the rules and the regulations are. They abide by the laws. And they have one of the best tracts of coal east of the Mississippi River. Today, this morning in the paper, the University of Kentucky had to lay off about 150 employees. They need money. This is a source of income that they would probably like to depend on. I want to just assure you, you're dealing with people that are competent, that are capable, and knowledgeable. They know what they're doing. Another comment that I'm going to make is a stream that's on my grandfather's property, probably been there since the beginning of time. The bedrock in that stream is a seam of coal. It probably has been that way since God created this earth. Unless something drastically changed, it will be that way. My last comment, I did not know I'd see this gentleman, is a neighbor that drives 2.5 hours every morning, gets up at 3:30 to work, puts in a hard day at work, drives 2.5 hours home. His wife and my wife walk every morning. She says he comes home and he goes to bed. He gets up tomorrow morning, he does it all over again. He's afraid he's not going to make it to retirement. Please help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the comment. Thank you. Next speaker.
Number 9, Donovan Blackburn. I'm the city manager for the city of Pikeville. I'm here speaking on behalf of Mayor Frank Justice. As the mayor of Pikeville, I proudly cast a motion in the first vote to join the lawsuit against the EPA on behalf of the citizens I elected to represent in order to preserve the quality of life and jobs. The city joined this suit with the Kentucky Coal Association and Commonwealth of Kentucky, challenging the legal validity of the EPA's guidance, giving rise to the permit objection and litigation currently pending in Washington, D.C. I vow to continue this fight as long as I am a sworn representative of the good people of Pikeville and the coal fields in order to protect those rights that have been ignored by the EPA's action. As the county seat, the largest county of coal producing, I am telling you that this is our way of life, and in turns giving us a better quality of life. Through generations of courage and hard work, coal miners have helped to supply the coal that has built this country, supplying coal to heat iron plants, fuel plants, and produce energy. Let us not turn our backs on those that have founded this country through unfair regulations. As a mayor of Pikeville, who is also a coal operator, I know my community has benefited with millions of dollars reinvested back into our community through the leadership of our legislators. In the past 6 years, the city of Pikeville has used coal severance dollars to provide safe drinking water and sewer services to our residents. We have not harmed our river and streams, but have greatly improved them by cleaning up thousands of straight pipes that were formerly polluting them. Without coal mining and coal severance tax dollars creating these projects, it would not have been possible without placing the burden of debt on our people. Because of the objections of these permits, it is estimated more than $123 million in coal severance taxes has been lost. As a coal operator, I have personally felt the sting of our regulations. I recently had to stop operations of a coal mine because it no longer meets your regulations. I have found as an operator it is not only frustrating to deal with more stringent rules and regulations, but it is apparent that the intent is to put a squeeze on this industry. This week, one of my lowest points as a coal operator was laying off 1/3 of my staff. The men that made their living through the sweat of their brow. To see the hurt and the fear in their eyes when I told them the news of their layoff was heartbreaking. To put a face on those that your regulations are directly impacting. You need to take a look at the eyes of those that you are directly impacting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next speaker.
I'm Judge Rutherford, County Judge Executive of Pike County, Kentucky. If we were a state, we'd be 10th in the United States in coal production. I'm here today to talk about the most valuable commodity that we have in America today, and that is our coal. 22% of the reserve of coal in the world is in the United States of America. The BTU, we got more coal that's got BTU than they got oil in the Middle East. The scientific data that EPA is using is very questionable. You need to go back and take a look at your scientific data that you're using. Also, your timetable. 20 years you've issued these permits. You come up and get 6 months. That's not time and not proper. You have a war on coal in America going on today. Whether you realize it or not, you need to get real. Quality of life in America is at stake. Not only our quality of life here in Central Appalachia, but the quality of life in the United States of America. Your utility rates, you're going to push them out till Americans can't keep their lights on. They're going to make a decision where to get medicine food or clothing or pay their utility bill. And EPA, you are causing this. Coal is not the villain in this country. Coal is the hero. The Industrial Revolution, the greatest one in the history of this world, was the Industrial Revolution of America, fueled by coal. And yet they're not the villain, they're the hero. You all have got to stop this war. In the 50s, our government had war against coal, and they started importing foreign oil. We lived through that. We'll live through that. Administrations come and go. Mrs. Jackson will be gone. Mr. Chu will be gone. And Mr. President, if you don't stop this war on coal in this country, you'll be gone. We need to balance our economy with our colleges. If you don't do that, America's in trouble.
Thank you very much. Okay, next speaker.
Yes, ma'am. I'm number 21. My name is Carl Breeding. I'm speaking on behalf...
Excuse me, could you turn
sorry.
up his mic? Thank you.
Okay. My name is Carl Breeding. It's C-A-R-L-B-R-E-E-D-I-N-G. I'm speaking on behalf of the Kentucky Chemical Industry Council, which is part of the Kentucky Associations of Manufacturers. The Chemical Industry Council is a statewide trade association representing chemical manufacturers in Kentucky. Kentucky's chemical manufacturers are heavily dependent upon low-cost energy that is available largely because of the state's abundant coal resources. Low-cost energy has been a primary factor in the decision of many of Kentucky's largest employers to locate their facilities in Kentucky and has allowed Kentucky to succeed in competing for new and expanded businesses. Unfortunately, EPA's objections to KPDS permits for new and expanded surface coal mining operations threatens to disrupt Kentucky's favorable energy supply status. The Chemical Industry Council is greatly concerned that if EPA's actions will result in a loss of manufacturing capacity in Kentucky and a consequent loss of jobs at this critical moment. EPA's implementation of its new requirements for Clean Water Act permits for eastern Kentucky surface mines is wholly inappropriate. The requirements were imposed without any prior notice to the industry or to the state permit issuing authority and were effective immediately. Procedures that had been approved by EPA and used for decades in the issuance of Clean Water Act permits were not used, resulting in chaos. The impact of EPA's inappropriate actions will be felt dramatically by Kentucky's manufacturing community, which recognizes that coal is a low-cost energy source that will be in demand for years to come. We should be exploring ways to better utilize the energy source rather than hindering its use. Kentucky's manufacturers, their employers, their families, and Kentucky's economy will suffer if EPA's objections stand. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, before the next speaker, I just want to see if there's anyone out there who needs the sign language interpreter services. If you could stand. No? Okay. You can maybe take a seat. Thank you. Please go ahead.
I'm number 22, Lloyd Cress, C-R-E-S-S, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Kentucky Coal Association. The Kentucky Coal Association truly welcomes these hearings, which afford EPA an opportunity to right a terrible wrong done to the Kentucky coal mining industry, the miners and their families, and the people of Kentucky who benefit so greatly from low-cost energy. The wrong occurred on April 1st, 2010, when EPA announced that new water quality requirements, effective immediately, would apply to the review of permits for new and expanded surface mining activities in eastern Kentucky. The new requirements replaced procedures that EPA had approved and the Commonwealth of Kentucky had used for more than 20 years, and as recently as 2 weeks before April 1st, 2010. The new requirements were imposed in a dictatorial fashion with no prior notice to the coal mining industry that would allow the companies to adjust their mining practices or their applications for Clean Water Act permits. The new permit requirements were imposed with no notice to the Kentucky Division of Water that had the responsibility for processing those applications. EPA's arrogant imposition of new requirements, effective immediately, has had a devastating effect on the surface mining industry that serves as the lifeblood of Eastern Kentucky's economy. For more than 2 years, not a single individual permit was approved without EPA objection. A more un-American abuse of due process and basic respect for the rights of others can hardly be envisioned in this country that prides itself as a nation of laws and not of men. The harm inflicted on the Eastern Kentucky economy has been prolonged by the failure to conduct the necessary hearings. In the meantime, projects have been amended, jobs have been lost, and people have suffered without any effort by EPA to fulfill its legal responsibility.
Thank you. Please, excuse me. Thank you, and please make sure we get a written copy of that so we can make sure we capture, because I don't think the court reporter can, if it's not in the microphone, can capture it. So next speaker, please.
Mike Hansel, Hansel, it's Hansel and Gretel, number 23. In the EPA's official specific objection to these permits being discussed, one particular statement rings as quite odd to me. The statement in each of those stereotyped letters reads, EPA's objections consider in part the emerging science of the impacts of surface coal mining on water quality. Not mountaintop mining, but surface mining. A curious statement indeed, perhaps a look into this administration's next step to complete the elimination of coal mining and coal jobs. This EPA, at the direction of the White House, is choosing to ignore any statement of science fact that is not submitted by a left-wing activist. They choose instead to rely on opinion which has no scientific study or background so that this administration can keep its campaign promise from 2008. The promise to make it so difficult to mine coal in the United States that companies will be forced to quit or go broke. Just a statement that the left needed to launch their push of this agenda. The demographics tell the complete story behind what is happening here today. Each pushing here should take a moment, look around and observe. As my grandmother would say, it's as plain as the nose on your face. She would also say, ponder on that one for a while and we'll just see how smart you really are. The administration would like for you to believe that this action is being taken to protect the public. I believe, however, it is not. It is totally about money and power. Step back and see who will profit from the loss of coal jobs and coal revenue. Check the ties to the emerging green industries and see what you come up with. When an industry is saddled with impossible standards, such as having any discharge from a permitted area being cleaner than that of drinking water, enough said. It's as plain as the nose on your face, son. I will end my comments by reminding this panel and those in the attendance of a few quotes from famous Americans they need to remember. Thomas Jefferson, were we directed from Washington when to sow and when to reap, we would soon want bread. Thomas Jefferson, to compel a man to furnish funds for the propagation of ideas he believes and abhors is sinful and tyrannical. And my last one from a great scientist is Albert Einstein. And he says, let us not think of what is, let's think of what should be. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, but before the next speaker, I'd like to request the next block to go to the back, group speakers 31 to 40. If you could go to the back right room to get your briefing. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm number 26. My name is Ama Bowman Bentley. I'm with Appalachian States Analytical, a private environmental laboratory. I'm also a lifelong resident of Pike County, Kentucky. Where was the EPA 40, 50 years ago when mining was a true source of stream pollution? Do you realize that any treatment being done of the acid mine drainage left behind by the companies who mined many years ago and that are no longer in business is being treated by the coal companies that are in business today? Do you realize that the majority of the reclamation done on properties bastardized by the coal companies of the old era has been reclaimed and repaired by the coal companies in this room today, not by AEML and not by the government. Shut these coal companies down by not issuing permits or by issuing permits that are not practical or affordable, and who will treat and repair our mistakes of the past? Surface mining today, with all the current regulations, provides a great source of much-needed land and, of course, revenue for our region. I know that today the water quality is monitored closely, and in many cases, stream quality is actually improved by mining. Pollution and sediment control is a top priority of coal companies. Don't jeopardize an entire industry and hundreds of thousands of people's livelihood just because of a handful of misinformed people, and by imposing regulations that are more stringent than drinking water standards. Why not concentrate on our region's true source of pollution, straight pipes, raw sewage? Now, you may want to know how I'm qualified to make such a statement as to say sewage is our true source of pollution. I'm a lifelong resident of Pike County, Kentucky. I've managed an environmental laboratory for over 30 years, and I have seen a lot of pollution. I've traveled these surface mines. I have trampled through our streams. I've analyzed the water. You want to save our streams? Take the money you're using to fight a problem that's already been addressed and put it in an area where it's needed. Thank you.
Next speaker, please go ahead.
Number 25, I'm Charles George. I'm here to represent the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. We are the state's largest business association with over 2,700 members representing over half of Kentucky's workforce, and many of that workforce is right here in this room. We're extremely concerned that EPA's actions regarding Clean Water Act permits for new and expanding mining activities in Kentucky have a negative effect on our business climate and jeopardize our economic future. The Kentucky Chamber is troubled by EPA's new water quality requirements on coal mining activities through the issuance of guidance rather than notice and comment rulemaking, which is contrary to federal law. As a result of EPA's failure to follow appropriate legal procedures, the agency has been forced to make significant revisions to its guidance as it has acquired additional information. Meanwhile, Kentucky's coal mining industry has been thrown into turmoil by EPA's objections to KPDES permits issued by the Kentucky Division of Water containing the same provisions previously approved by EPA. EPA's administrative negligence on this issue poses a serious threat to Kentucky's economy. The effect of EPA's permit objections in September 2011 alone could eliminate 3,800 jobs in the coal industry and more than $123 million in potential coal severance taxes. Although the direct effects of EPA's anti-coal policies are staggering, perhaps the greatest threat is posed by the increase in energy costs that will follow curtailment of coal production in this state. Kentucky's economy, particularly our strong manufacturing base, heavily relies on the availability of low-cost energy generated from coal right here in Kentucky. The Kentucky Chamber urges EPA to withdraw its pending objections to the KPDES permits and to work in a cooperative manner with the Kentucky Division of Water to develop regulatory requirements that allow the mining of coal to continue right here in Kentucky. We must ensure prosperity and job growth in the future, not only for the hardworking men and women in this room, but for all Kentuckians. Thank you.
Okay, next speaker, please.
Yes, number 28. Good afternoon. My name is Mark Porte. I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and the Vice President of Eastern Operations for Wayne Supply Company, and I also represent our sister company, Walker Machinery, in West Virginia. We are the Caterpillar mining construction equipment dealers in Kentucky, southern Indiana, West Virginia, and southeastern Ohio. These two companies employ over 2,000 men and women working out of 25 locations. 60% of our revenues are generated from the sale of machines, parts, service to the coal industry. So the coal industry supports all our employees and their families in 4 states. Next year, Wayne Supply will celebrate 100 years of service to our customers. At a time when I should be excited about our future, I am full of concern and uncertainty because our future is bleak because of the regulatory ambush on the coal industry by the EPA. Changing the permitting requirements in April 2010 has effectively strangled this industry to the breaking point. Why did you target only 6 states and then decide just West Virginia and Kentucky? Is this an environmental issue or a political issue? Why are your guidelines only directed at the coal industry? Why do dissolved solids and conductivity from coal mining affect aquatic systems more than from other activities that displaced or disturbed soil? Is this just the EPA's preview to stop all mining, all construction and agriculture, all of which disturb soil, and not meet your conductivity guidelines? Why is the rest of the world growing their coal-generating electricity capacity at record levels while we're shutting ours down? To address worldwide demand, Caterpillar has expanded their mining equipment line. Normally, this would be an exciting time as the expansion directly impacts our business. We should be adding high-paying jobs and building new facilities and be very excited about the future, but we are concerned about the uncertainty. Central Appalachia coal region suffers because Kentucky and West Virginia are under attack by unfair and questionable governance by the EPA, causing massive layoffs, mine shutdowns, downsizing, and company closures. I strongly encourage EPA to withdraw its objections to these 36 permits. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm speaking about a permit, specific permit. So if you can hold the clock.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Because I did that Tuesday night and I used up too much time on that.
No, we get, yeah.
Okay.
Take your time.
My name is Don Gibson. I represent Arch Coal. And I have a permit that's on the list of 36. It's permit 8970448. The only thing that I've got to say about that is it is 37 acres in a 254,000 acre watershed. You're wasting your time, you're wasting your money. Instead of spending money on these meetings and objections to permits such as that, I want to agree with what Amos said and what several other people have said here. Get proactive about getting us some sewer in the watersheds in eastern Kentucky. That's where the health issues come from. We hear all these false reports about the illness in the coal fields being caused by mountaintop removal. That's bullcrap. The disease and the illness is caused by the crap that's in the stream from the straight pipes. So let's spend our money there and focus our efforts. One thing that I want to point out, Tuesday night in Frankfort, we had 800 plus Arch employees there that bussed in and drove in for 3 hours to get there to hear their voice heard. Rest assured, in November, their voice will be heard. My last point is to all the coal miners, and I want you to listen up to me. The EPA, and not these folks sitting on the stage, but the EPA in Washington, D.C. has set a real good example for us. They have changed the rules midstream. Come November, we're going to be at a midpoint, potentially, of having a president maybe for another 4 years. Let's follow their lead. Let's make a change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just before you start, could I have the next group? And I believe we're up to numbers 91 to 100. Go to the back. We do still have more slots available for speaking, so that if you would like to make a statement, please go back to the registration table to receive a number so we can get you in the queue. So let me just wait till these, looks like we're having a change. He had quite a support section there. Okay, next speaker, please go ahead.
I'm speaker number 30. I'm James Milam. You people don't hold it against me, but I'm from West Virginia. We're over here supporting coal. I'm the president of the Logan Coal Vendors Association, and we represent the spinoff jobs. We're the 4 or 5 jobs that spend off by every coal miner that's out there working, and we want to thank every one of the coal miners here today for the jobs that we have. The one thing that the coal vendors wants to tell you today, we are the small and medium-sized businesses. And when I say that, if you listen to the President of the United States talk right now, he says, what do we do to stimulate the U.S. economy? We've got to do something to drive jobs up. It takes the small and medium-sized businesses to drive the jobs up. Well, you know, we're an engine. We're called the economic engine for the United States. We're what makes the United States of America stand strong. Well, if you cut the fuel supply off to that engine, it's just like the vehicle that you drive every day. It's going to shut down. If you shut down the coal economy, you shut down these coal operators, and they decide to take their toys and go elsewhere and play, what happens to the economic engine here in the United States? It's going to quit running. You can't stimulate something that you take away. If you don't supply an energy source or a fuel source to that engine, it's going to shut down. That's who we are. We're the spin-off jobs. We're the majority. The coal operators and the coal miners, they're the minority. We're the hundreds of thousands of jobs that get spin off because of coal. We want you to issue these permits. We've got to have these permits. You go out and buy a bottle of water in the store, it's dirtier than the water that you hold the standards for the coal miners to drop off. It's a hell of a lot dirtier. Don't cut off our fuel supply. That's what drives this economic engine. And you better get that in the President's hand, but like the man said before, we got a voice in November and we're going to use it. Thank you.
Okay, next speaker, please.
Speaker number 29. My name is Jim Winkler. I'm Vice President of Logan Coal Vendors Association. Also, I own American Hydraulics and Rebuild in Logan, West Virginia. I employ 31 people. They have 24 kids, got 18 grandkids. That's why I'm here today. Now, the biggest issue that we have is the fact is that for every coal mining job, as James says, there's 6 of us. We represent thousands of people. Everybody from my community is scared to death for their jobs, and plus my men too. I've already got them cut back on hours. Never had a layoff in 32 years I've been in business, just strictly because of the EPA. I don't trust the EPA, I don't trust Lisa Jackson, and I will never trust them. We have a permit issue in Logan County where Archer, West Virginia has got a permit that they took 10 years to get it. It was approved. We went to court. Went to appeals court once the EPA rejected it, and they ruled in our favor. Well, just recently, the EPA filed another lawsuit against them and going to reject the permit. That's not fair. We're given a set of regulations in the mining industry. We meet those regulations. What the EPA does, they raise those standards. Then we have to try to meet them again. It's not a fair issue on our part. They're not thinking about the human beings that are affected by this, and the fact that our communities, our coal communities, which have a lot of pride, are being hurt every day. We're going to stand together, we're going to be united, and we're going to fight the EPA every step of the way. Please release these permits and let's go to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker, please.
I'm number 32. Okay.
That's okay.
All right. My name is Matt Wasson. I'm here on behalf of Appalachian Voices, a nonprofit group, and our thousands of members across the region. Jobs are up since the EPA started its enhanced coordination procedures back in June 2009. I mentioned that on Tuesday. And that's just a fact. Nobody's going to tell you that, but the number of jobs in Appalachia, mining jobs, are up by 6% over that time period. Now, granted, there's a lot of layoffs that are just starting to happen, but that's for very different reasons. And everybody knows it. It's because natural gas prices have gotten so low that coal simply cannot compete. It's not even close. Coal has gone from half of our electricity production several years ago to a third of our electricity production today. That's going to cost jobs. It's going to cost jobs all over the country. But that's not EPA's fault. It's not EPA's fault that the political leaders and the business leaders in Eastern Kentucky do not have the vision or the courage to try to diversify the economy and try to attract new industries to the region. That's what's required. To put it in perspective, though, what EPA is responsible for making sure that people have a safe environment, and a business, an economy needs clean water and clean air and a safe environment in which to flourish. Here in Pike County, Kentucky, it was mentioned, the biggest coal-producing county east of the Mississippi. 70,000 acres have been strip mined here over 5, 6, 7 decades. If that were good for the economy, the streets ought to be paved with gold, right, by now? Well, the life expectancy in Pike County is about what it is in Vietnam, El Salvador, and Iran. In the last decade, while life expectancy across the U.S. has gone up by a year, it's down by a year in Pike County. Every other stat across the board, socioeconomic, looks pretty bad. And so what we need is EPA to do its job, and we can do ours.
Thank you. Thank you. Please remember ground rules beginning. So courtesy, every speaker gets the same opportunity. So next speaker, please.
I'm speaker number 31. My name is Erin Savage, S-A-V-A-G-E. I'm a water quality specialist with Appalachian Voices. I'd like to thank the EPA for this chance to speak and to commend the EPA for fulfilling its obligation to oversee the protection of public waters of the United States, waters that belong to all of us. Since 2010, Appalachian Voices has brought cases against 3 of Kentucky's largest coal companies, ICG, Fraser Creek, and Nally and Hamilton, for nearly 36,000 violations of the Clean Water Act. These violations include falsified discharge monitoring reports, as well as substantive permit limit violations. These violations were neither identified by the state of Kentucky, nor were they adequately dealt with when the state was made aware of these problems. The state is clearly either unwilling or unable to properly enforce the Clean Water Act. Therefore, the EPA must intervene. This hearing is not about disallowing mining in Kentucky. This hearing is solely about water pollution permits. Protecting our water quality is essential to the health of the residents and the ecosystems of eastern Kentucky. Valley fill permits for mountaintop removal damages streams. Our citizen monitoring program has identified real water pollution problems, including streams with a pH between 3 and 4, manganese greater than 13 milligrams per liter, and iron greater than 60 milligrams per liter. Mountaintop removal has also been linked to health problems in people. People living near mountaintop removal are 50% more likely to die of cancer and 42% more likely to have children with birth defects. The EPA is not destroying coal jobs. Coal jobs in Appalachia have increased by 6% since 2009. The demand for coal is decreasing due to competition with natural gas. The real question is not whether coal will be mined in Kentucky, but rather which companies will be allowed to mine. Companies that respect the law or companies that break the law and disrespect the people of eastern Kentucky.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next speaker, please.
I'm speaker number 34. My name is Gary Bentley. I'm here as just an everyday Appalachian citizen, Kentucky coal miner. And what I would like to get across is here in Appalachia, we do rely on the coal industry. Right now, without it, we don't have any sort of economy to keep the area going. However, the Clean Water Act has been in effect since 1976. You have billion-dollar companies who want to avoid doing what's right. I work for these companies. I rely on this every day as my income. However, we need to stand together as our coal miners and protect our industry. You take Friends of Coal, the Kentucky Coal Association. I've supported it for many years. However, now with the recent layoffs, I'd like to see these organizations come back and help our miners that are out of work. That's a question that all the coal miners, everybody needs to ask. When are these corporations going to come back and support our area in other ways than mining coal? Granted, it's a wonderful economy, it's a wonderful job with great benefits. I have a college education and can't do any better than working underground. I can't ask for a better job. However, I would like to see these corporations, these million-dollar companies, come back and show just a little bit of support for us when we're out of work. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next speaker, please.
I'm number 33. My name is Jennifer Lee, L-E-E, and I'm with the Harlan County Chamber of Commerce. For decades, this region has provided the resources necessary to provide energy to our country. We've built our local economies on this foundation and dedicated our lives to providing coal to our nation. Harlan County needs the coal industry to survive. While many point out that the permit issue is only affecting surface mining, in our community, the overwhelming majority of coal operations are underground, and they are slowly being squeezed out by these policy decisions. Unfortunately, in our community, there are precious few opportunities for growth. There are no major highways encouraging economic development and supporting commerce among the small towns nestled in the folds of our mountains. As Executive Director of the Harlan County Chamber of Commerce, I'm concerned about the immediate future of all of our people and all of our businesses that depend on coal for jobs, ranging from our engineers and geologists to our truck drivers. As miners lose their jobs and move on, Harlan County loses not only our families, but all of our merchants, teachers, doctors, lawyers, and other professionals whose work disappears with them. We've been through tough times before, but never faced such a daunting combination of political and market forces killing our only viable industry. Market ups and downs we understand. That's business. We can all agree that regulations, fair treatment, and responsible oversight are necessary and beneficial, but the discriminate application of policies and interpretation, rather than laws and regulations that treat Appalachian mining as unacceptable, while approving operations in other areas, is unjust and potentially catastrophic to our livelihood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next speaker.
My name is Bill Bissett, and I'm president of the Kentucky Coal Association. We represent the 18,000 men and women who mine the coal in Kentucky every day. For every one coal miner, 3 other jobs are dependent on that coal miner for their job. So when we have a layoff, when mines close, you're not just affecting the miners, you're affecting 3 other jobs as well. I want to thank you, Jim, for the opportunity to address you again, as I did in Frankfort. Let me tell you about Frankfort. We had thousands of people there in the capital where they do not mine coal. Democrats and Republicans, coal miners from West and Eastern Kentucky with their families, who were overwhelmingly the loudest voice in that town that day, standing up for Kentucky coal, and we need to thank them. I have some questions today for the Environmental Protection Agency. I would appreciate a response by writing if possible. Where is Lisa Jackson today? What does she have to do that's more important than these jobs and these people of Eastern Kentucky? Where is Gwen Keyes Fleming today, the Region 4 Administrator? What is she doing that is more important than this hearing today? When you started this guidance, it was 6 states: Tennessee, Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, and West Virginia. A year later, you removed 4 of the states and maintained this policy in Eastern Kentucky and West Virginia. Why were the other 4 states released? I would assume it's because they're battleground states for the upcoming election, and the president needs their support. That is politically motivated, and that is wrong. It is selective enforcement to single out Eastern Kentucky and West Virginia. The fish don't care who are on the border of the state. They're drinking the same water. It doesn't make any sense. Why only Eastern Kentucky? Why does the same mining permit in Western Kentucky get approved by your office, yet the Eastern Kentucky surface mining is objected to? That is selective enforcement, and that is wrong. Why did it take 1.5 years to do these public hearings? Why is only coal being singled out? What about highway construction, agriculture, and other large earth-moving equipment? We appreciate you listening today, and as my good friend Don Gibson say, you're going to hear from us again in November.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Bryant, Jr., B-R-Y-A-N-T. I'm speaker number 91. I'd like to let the audience know I've been employed in the coal industry for 40 years. I had one termination of coal activity. I served my country for 13 months during active duty and wearing an American uniform. At no time did my president ever direct me to go take a working man's job from him to protect this country. And now it seems like we're under fire from the EPA, from the U.S. Corps of Engineers, and this is not right. The United States Constitution has an act that says no law will be made to be detrimental to another industry. So why is the U.S. coal industry
under attack in the southern Appalachian coal fields. Why not the Illinois coal basin, and why not Wyoming? Why aren't we all being treated the same way? Is their time in the barrel going to come after ours? When you cut off the tree of coal, the root will die, and it'll also take every industry with it when it does die. All the support industries will be gone. And now we find ourselves with a population shift that's called demographics. We look at all these small communities that are getting smaller every day. The cities are getting smaller. We're consolidating schools. We have one school in each county. Where is the population going to? They're going to well-paying jobs. We will not make it as a tourist industry here in this state. And we'll also not make it as an automobile manufacturing state, simply because nobody's going to locate here because the detrimental effects on the EPA, how they treat smokestack industries. And I'd like to also say that the President administration is so ill thought of in the United States right now that Kenya is even saying he was born here. So let's all get behind what's actually affecting us right now and change this thing.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hello.
Next speaker. Hello.
My name is Mike Bays, and I'm number 94 on the list. I'm a candidate, a Republican candidate, for the House of Delegates in West Virginia. I brought this cup with me for a certain reason. There are certain words in the English language, and I have a medical condition that when those words, when I speak them, it causes me to have to spit, and I apologize for that. But I'd like to say to the EPA that you're in Pikeville, Kentucky. Just to remind you, some of you had problems with that a minute ago. Pikeville, Kentucky is the home of the Hatfields and McCoys. And I will tell you that if Randall or Devil Anse were alive today, they wouldn't be shooting at each other. And you know what I'm referring to. But I'd like to welcome you to Eastern Kentucky. I'm from southern West Virginia. I've lived in Eastern Kentucky, and I know what it's like to face hardship in the coal industry, but never in my worst imaginations would I've ever thought that the biggest obstacle to the fine men and women who work in the coal industry was our own federal government. Mr. Obama, there's one of those words. I'm sorry. Mr. Obama has made it extremely difficult for us to make a living in the coal industry. And we are squandering a resource that cannot be replaced. And I'm not referring to coal. I'm talking to those men and women who are the most professional miners in the world, who bring coal out every day for our electricity bills to be something that is unequaled in the world. We owe them a debt of gratitude. They saved this country in World War II. They will save this country again whenever needed. Thank you very much.
Okay, next speaker, please.
My number is 93. My name is George A. Hilton, H-E-L-T-O-N. I'm proud to represent. I'm a coal miner. I work for T-Coal Coal. EPA, they always want to drop our permits. They don't want to look at things equally, fair. We're not a villain. We're a human being like kids are. All we ask is to be a way of life. Why can't you look at things equal? If we're doing something so bad, set it up for the next generation, still kicking everybody out. This country is not ready for use no more coal. It's going to be yours down the road. Why don't you just get together and use your head and dedicate yourself to set up the next generation, the follower generation? There's not a person in this room does not want to leave their next generation, their grandkids, a better life. I just think we are so dirty because we mine coal, you don't want us to work. I don't understand you why. I mean, people in the White House up there does not understand this industry of it. Do you understand the complete process of mining coal? It's a construction job. Or 5 years, 10 years you go down the road, if you don't know that mountain's been stripped, you will not be able to tell it. Why does everybody don't want us to have a job? Be with the United States. We're proud to be American. Why? this EPA is taking fit on all of the coal industry. Don't they look at everybody else in the United States does the nuclear system? Look at Japan over there. How many generations is going to die from what happened over there last year? Can people realize and understand the life? Thank you.
Okay. Next speaker, please.
I have an assigned number of 96. My name is Roger Horton. I'm here representing the Citizens for Coal, the Mountaintop Mining Coalition, the West Virginia Coal Association, the West Virginia Coal Forum, and all of the West Virginians who care about West Virginia and our great country. You know, yesterday passed, June the 6th, 68 years ago, a lot of coal miners went to liberate a country fighting in World War II. They fought, many of them died because they believed in this great nation. I have a message for the EPA. The men and women that you're confronting in the coal field today are just as adamant about whooping somebody's butt as those great men and women who died during that war. We have had enough of the belittlement of the professional jobs that we carry out. So I'm here to tell you that we are going through the proper channels where it will all be done lawfully as we all prescribe to do. We are coming to Charleston with our votes and with our comments. And if not very careful, this EPA agency will have so little power, they'll not be able to leave that place up there. They don't have the gas to get out. I'm here to tell you that the coal industry is vital to the communities and to the national security of this United States, and we're willing to fight for it. And we're going to do it. And I appreciate your time and for the opportunity to speak. So thank you very much.
My name is Jimmy Hall, and I live in Mill Creek, Letcher County, Kentucky. I want to commend the miners for keeping the lights on for us. I want to condemn the coal companies, the big boys, for destroying my water, trying to take my land from me. I guess the gentleman said something about the Hat Mills McCoys. I guess that's how I feel. I'm the fourth, fifth generation of this property. I've had contamination, hydraulic oil, antifreeze, abandoned equipment, and everything else on this property. It took 8 years for me to get them to pick up the garbage. I am not allowed to go out here and change my oil or drain my radiator into the ground. If everybody in this United States of ours goes out and does that, can you imagine what's going to happen to our water? Right now, we are fighting for water in Mill Creek. We have lead and arsenic in our water. It's contaminant. We need help over there. We need water. We don't need to pay for taps. We don't need to pay for the water line. We don't mind paying the bill. But the whole thing is, it's nice to have a job working for the mines. It's nice to make $22.7 million for a Christmas bonus, and I'm talking about the CEO for a major company. Bring some of that money back and give the poor people that don't have water and some of the other things that they need around here what they made. The miners, I praise them. They do a good job. I'm not a miner. I put nuts and bolts on cars all my life. But I am a Kentuckian. I fill out something on a form. Where are you born and raised? I say Dean, Kentucky. I am in here trying to tell we need decent water. And if you're going to take an EPA, thank you. Because if we didn't have the rules, it'd be worse. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. At this moment, I believe right now we have two more speakers. And then, as far as I know, we don't have any other speakers registered. We're going to take a 15-minute break so that if others want to register to speak, we will do so, and then come back after the break. But we'll hear from these last two right now. Please go ahead.
My name's Jackie Darrell Smith. I'm a small business person from Phelps. I run a gas station, motel, laundromats, and been in business there for 35 years, do construction business, paving, backhoe, and septic stuff. So you might say I'm a small entrepreneur. But I did work in the coal mines back in the early 70s for several years. I was an electrician, mechanic, and then I became a mine foreman and got in the coal business a while. And coal is the top dog in Pike County and eastern Kentucky. Without coal, the money would dry up in my stream. I'm not foolish enough. Like some people think we don't need coal, but we do need coal. But we need to do it in a balanced approach. And everybody gets hot on different issues. But the truth of the matter is, in years past, the EPA and environmentalists and regulators have done some good. In the early 60s and the 50s, when I went hunting in the hills, it was dangerous to get up there and look down on the valleys. But it's changed. I was against strip mining at that time. But now it's grown up because of some nudging from government and smart co-operators. Now they mine in a reasonable way. Now it's a win-win situation for the coal industry. Besides people making money, feeding their families, and feeding us other guys that does other businesses, keeping the taxes paid to balance the budget, it's become a win-win. When you go on the mountaintop, I got a friend up here at the airport, it's a strip job, and you can see elk herds, you can see deers, you can see all kinds of animals, the turkeys, and people live up there. They got golf courses, different places, and different businesses. So it's a win-win, and we need the coal industry, and they are mining in a reasonable way. And the EPA has been a benefit some in the past. You know, it's all been bad. I went to Chicago in the early 50s, the 70s really, and the air was so troubled you couldn't breathe. But now it's improved. But now you're bad on the landfills is not a terrible thing. The streams they want to say we can't do the landfills on, there's no water there 95% of the time. So let them do the landfills. You're getting too tough. Back off some. We need you some, but don't overdo it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next speaker, please.
Hello. Is this on?
It is.
All right, my name is Alex Desha. That's D-E-S-H-A. I'm a member of the Sierra Club, and I live in Letcher County, Kentucky, and I can't drink the water. You can walk by just about any holler with surface mining and see poison water in dead streams. There is a pattern of violations by coal companies in regards to clean water. We are here today because the state has failed us. The Beshear administration does not seem to care about people or water. They seem more concerned about the bottom line of coal CEOs who pay themselves $6 million a year, fly around in their private helicopters, and vacation in their second homes while they talk about the EPA killing jobs. They do all this while they lay off real people. They, like our state leadership, do not care about people. Since they don't care about people, they certainly don't care about clean water. They want you, the EPA, to back down and lift your objections or water them down so much that they don't matter. This is a fact. Water quality is a good indicator of human health. People living near the destruction suffer disproportionate rates of cancer, birth defects, and mortality. It's clear the state is not up to the task, and coal companies will not police themselves. Do not listen to the fear being peddled by the coal industry. I want you to hold the line and revoke the state's authority to administer the NPDES program. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now it is time for our public comment period, and we have our first speakers coming up. The way it's going to work, and we have some seasoned speakers that they can lead us through this. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. I will ask you to first say your speaker number, then your name. Spell your name, please, so we can get it correct in the transcript. Your organization that you're representing, if any. And if you are referencing any specific permits, please state that as well. Then we will start the timer, which is up there now, and you will see you've got 2 minutes. At the end of the 2 minutes, I do ask that you conclude your comments. If you haven't finished, we ask that you submit the remainder in writing, as many people have brought statements with them. The microphones will slowly go softer, so it won't be your imagination. and then we will turn to the next speaker. So with that, I'd like to open it up and start with speaker number 1.
Thank you. I am speaker number 1, and I am Donna McClure, M as in mining, C-C-L-U-R-E, and unfortunately Congress is in session this week and Senator McConnell could not be here. So I am reading a statement from the United States Senate Republican leader, Mitch McConnell. Like most of the country, Kentucky is suffering from very difficult economic times. Far too many Kentuckians are unemployed and the prospect for future employment remains daunting. It is especially irritating this administration has blindly followed policies eliminating jobs in our communities. The people of Kentucky are amongst the hardest working people on earth, but how can we be expected to compete if our own government is working against us? Simply put, my constituents are under siege from the Obama administration's regulatory agenda, and the EPA is the worst offender. These 36 objections are further proof of this siege. Perhaps the clearest example of this administration's regulatory assault is its war on coal. Since being sworn in, President Obama's EPA has set out to circumvent the will of Congress and the American people by turning the already cumbersome mine permitting process into a backdoor means of shutting down coal mines. 18,000 Kentuckians work in coal mining, and nearly 200,000 more, including farmers, realtors, and transportation workers, rely on the coal industry. Attacking an industry so important to Kentucky will only succeed in putting people out of work, impeding future job growth, and increasing energy prices. A former senior EPA official under the Obama administration recently summed up the regulatory philosophy of the agency with respect to those working in the coal business by saying it wants to crucify them. With this radical environmental anti-coal agenda, it is no wonder the administration has failed to answer the American people's call for greater domestic energy production. The real-world impact of their fantasy world energy policy is people are losing their jobs and energy prices continue to increase. It is high time the Obama administration stopped treating the Kentucky coal industry as being part of the problem. Kentucky coal is the solution.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
I'm back. My name is James Milliman, M-I-L-L-I-M-A-N, State Director for Senator Rand Paul. And Senator Paul cannot be here tonight because I tell you what he's doing, ladies and gentlemen. He's up in Washington, D.C. as we speak, fighting the EPA. And he will continue to fight the EPA until we achieve victory and keep your jobs. But the senator has filed a list of questions that he would respectfully request a written response for, and we have filed them in the box. So, but there's another question he wanted to ask, but I can't ask it now because something else came up. Today's June the 7th, and I just got a White House blog from the White House. And here's what it says, ladies and gentlemen, a White House blog on here it is, the White House. And you know what it says, what it's about? Protecting jobs in the American wind industry. The wind industry, and it goes on to talk about what a great priority protecting jobs in the American wind industry is. Not a word is mentioned about coal. Not a word. And my question to the EPA is, why are you more concerned about protecting jobs in a wind industry with companies like Solyndra that rapes the country of billions of dollars for Obama donors, and you neglect and spit in the face of these hard-working miners who for 250 years have provided energy to this country? Why do you choose wind over coal? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next speaker, please.
I'm Danielle Smoot, speaker number 3 with Congressman Hal Rogers' office. Also here with me tonight is our new district director, Chris Girdler. He is also the 15th District State Senator-elect. Congressman Rogers would love to be with us here tonight, but he is also in Washington continuing to fight this same fight on Capitol Hill. Congressman Rogers has grave concern about the Environmental Protection Agency's strangulating regulations on Appalachian coal. In fact, earlier this year, he told EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson that the agency's behavior is contemptible. Time and again, the EPA has tried to bypass the Congress and weaken state authority. And they make no secret of this administration's intentions to shut down Kentucky coal. The permit process is now so complex that our coal operators are jumping through regulatory hoops, trying to understand the constant shift in standards and rules that don't apply to everyone. What we do know, what has been made very clear, is that only one 404 individual permit has been approved for a new surface mining operation in Kentucky in 3.5 years, and folks, that is downright shameful. Congressman Rogers has made it clear that just because you're pro-coal does not mean you're against the environment. He is the co-founder of the Eastern Kentucky Pride organization that has invested environmental education in every school district in southern and eastern Kentucky, inspired upwards of 33,000 volunteers to clean up our hillsides every April, and removed nearly 30,000 straight pipes from dumping raw sewage into our streams. In fact, some of the Pride's most proud sponsors and volunteers are coal operators and the coal mining families that are with us here tonight. Whether you've taken note or not, the coal operators have made great strides in reducing their environmental footprint. The EPA does have a duty to protect the environment. No one here tonight wants to eliminate environmental laws, but we do expect them to be applied fairly and consistently so our coal mining families can build a business, start a family, or buy a home without the fear of another pink slip because another permit is on hold. Congressman Rogers asked the EPA to overturn its objections to these permits, set aside its political agendas, and allow coal miners in Kentucky to provide for their families. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Before the next speaker, let me just check if anyone has come in that needs the sign language interpretation services. If you could raise your hand to stand up. Okay, I didn't see anyone, so I think you can sit down. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Speaker number and then name.
Thank you. I'm speaker number 4. My name is Greg Stumbo. I currently serve as state representative for the 95th District, which is basically Floyd County down just a few miles south of here, and I'm currently the Speaker of the House in Kentucky. I also had the occasion to write the state's primacy law in 1980 in my first session of the General Assembly, and I live on a reclaimed surface mine. And I've probably, as a private attorney, collected on behalf of injured miners and their families more benefits than anybody in this whole state. For 30 years, that's who I represented. So let me tell you my objection to what you're doing here. When we enacted our primacy law, it was because Congress wanted a national standard for states that engaged in mining practices. And for 30 years, that's worked. But now what you want to do, it seems to me, is change the standard just because you don't like a particular form of mining. That's not your prerogative. That's the prerogative of the Congress of the United States. The Federal Surface Mining Act was passed in 1977. The Clean Air Act was passed, or Clean Water in 1972. And the legislative act that passes last takes precedent. So what you have to look for is what was the intent of Congress. We live in a democracy, not a dictatorship. If you want to change the law, go lobby Congress. If they change it, we'll obey it. If the Kentucky legislature changes it, we'll obey it. My problem is that what you're doing is striking down the intent of Congress to have a uniform law for all the states just to penalize us. If you don't believe that mountaintop mining has a positive effect, come see where I live. There's a championship, 18-hole public golf course, Little League ball fields, soccer fields, a riding stable, a residential community. We need this land to lift ourselves up out of poverty because unless you've noticed, our topography won't let us develop in the valleys because they're prone to flooding. If we're ever going to get out of the cycle of poverty, we have to utilize the tops of our mountains so that the next generation of Eastern Kentuckians look down at the mountains and not up at them. Don't take this tool from us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker.
I'm speaker number 5. I'm State Representative Rocky Adkins. I represent part of Eastern Kentucky. I've just finished my 25th year in the Kentucky House of Representatives. I represent Elliott, Lawrence, Boyd, and Round County. I also serve as the majority leader in the Kentucky House of Representatives. I'd like to start my comments with, if justice is defined as equal treatment under the law, then what the EPA is doing with coal mining in our region is the most shocking example of injustice I have seen in this country in many years. I'm glad you're here to get a direct look of the impact of your rules and regulations. Thousands of jobs have been lost directly and indirectly in the coal industry and in the mining industry. Businesses have been hurt and shut down. These are real people, not a statistic. People with families trying to put food on the table, put a roof over their heads, send their kids to school. Your rules and regulations with 404 permits, over 200 of them have laid with no decisions. They've hurt our coal industry and hurt our people. Your rules and regulations on 402 permits is hurting our industry and putting our people out of work, destroying our economy. Federal regulations that only impact 6 states in Central Appalachian and not the rest of the country. You have targeted and attacked the coal industry of our region, and I believe your game plan is to put this industry out of business, send our people home without a job, and destroy our economy. I hope this is not true, but the evidence from your actions would find you guilty of every charge in every court throughout this country. Kentucky is a primacy state, given the authority over the last 30 years to review and make decisions on granting mining permits. Our professionals in Kentucky are professionals, qualified, who have done a great job with their responsibilities in this area. The Kentucky Department of EPA, led by Secretary Lynn Peters and Commissioner Bruce Scott, 2 highly respected and highly dedicated people, they're known nationally for their expertise. This is why Kentucky filed suit against the federal EPA, and rightly so. You said that after 30 years of primacy, after 30 years of providing the experience in Kentucky, and then all of a sudden we want to change the game. I'm here to tell you, you do your job and let our people do theirs and let them go back to work.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
I'm speaker number 6. I'm Fitz, F-I-T-Z Steele. I'm state representative of the 84th District, and I proudly represent the number 2 and 3 largest coal-producing counties of this Commonwealth. I'd like to thank everyone tonight for coming to support Kentucky's coal miners and my signature industry, the coal industry. As you know, Jim, I'm glad you all got them tonight. Your water you're drinking, if you're drinking it, you're breaking the law. It's higher than the conductivity level of what you've set on coal mining. I've fed my family for 20-some years being a coal miner. I'm a coal miner now, I'm a state representative now, and a self-businessman now. And I'll be a coal miner till the day I die. We'll not stop mining coal. We can't stop mining coal. If this state stopped mining coal, it would take 24% of this nation's renewables just to fuel what supply Kentucky needs to power this Commonwealth. No way. No wind, no power. No sun, no power. Coal will burn. We've got it. My people's not afraid of Al-Qaeda. They're not afraid of the air and the water they drink. They're afraid of the Obama administration. They have targeted us for over 4 years. And enough's enough. We want change. We're going to have change. We're going to have change in November. I ask you, since April 2010, not one East Kentucky permit has been issued. My brothers in the West Kentucky, their permits fly through your all's office. We don't get one. Same engineering, same equipment, same everything. Why are you discriminating against West Virginia and Kentucky? Why? I ask you to look at it, go back, release our permits, let my people go back to work. We don't want a handout. We're not like other groups. We don't want a handout. We want to work and earn a living, a good living, a fair living. And also, I would like to invite you, as being vice chair, I know my chairman's invited the EPA to hearings in Frankfort. You're welcome anytime. And like you done last year for your private tours in East Kentucky, come let us take you on a tour.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Thank you. My name is Ray Jones. I'm the state senator for the 31st District, Pike, Martin, and Johnson County. And it is my privilege to represent the largest coal-producing district of the 38 members of the Kentucky Senate. First of all, let me say that I'm somewhat glad that we're having the opportunity to address the EPA. It's only taken 18 months since the first request was put in for a public meeting. You know, those of us who've had the opportunity to go to law school, there's something you learn in the first year of law school. It's called due process. And let me tell you something. The process that the EPA went through in adopting the conductivity standards violates the due process rights of every man, woman, and child in Kentucky and West Virginia. Let me ask you, it's a basic fundamental question. Why doesn't this same guidance apply to Virginia? We have a tributary that runs into the Fish Trap Reservoir from Virginia. It doesn't apply to Ohio or Pennsylvania. Why is that? But yet, we find ourselves in a position where we have thousands of people out of work in eastern Kentucky, in large part because of the actions of the federal government. These folks would like to be home with their families tonight. A lot of these men and women work today. But yet, they have to come here to defend themselves against the United States government and its bureaucracy. There is something fundamentally wrong with that. Now, let me tell you how much sense that this regulation makes. The largest polluter of our tributaries and streams throughout this country is agriculture. Herbicides, pesticides, fertilizer. It ends up in our streams and creeks through erosion and runoff. What's next? Will the EPA stop our farmers from growing food because of that? It's no different, ladies and gentlemen, and it's fundamentally wrong. This administration at the EPA is out of touch with the needs of the people of this state, and it jeopardizes an economy of an entire region. And one last thing, there's a federal prison built on a reclaimed strip mine in Martin County. Now that's how much sense that your policies make.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Thank you. Yes, I'm State Representative Leslie Combs, and along with Senator Jones, we represent the largest coal-producing county in this state. Now, I often argue with Representative Steele. We argue over who represents the second and third, but I say I represent the number 1, the number 2, and the number 3 largest coal-producing counties. So you can imagine how I feel about this. You can imagine the industry and the people that I represent. But first and foremost, folks, I want to welcome you. I want to welcome you right here to we're right here. You're sitting in our home precinct. We want to welcome you because we're finally glad to have you here. Now, I want to tell you one of the reasons I'm glad you're here. I get phone calls every single day from my constituents who tell me I'm losing my job. I'm losing my home. I can't afford to feed my family. I'm running out of things to tell these people. You all are here. Give me some answers. What do I tell these folks? What do I tell them? Because I'm going to tell you something about these wonderful people. They are great. All they want to do is they want to go to work. But let me tell you something they're being told. They're being told that what they do is wrong. They're being told that what they do is bad. I'm going to tell you something about me, and they're just like me. I don't believe in doing things wrong. I do not believe in being unethical, illegal, or doing things wrong. And I'm going to tell you what, these people know how to do it. They know how to do it right, and I'll be the first one in line to make them stay in line and do it right. By golly, give them don't take it away. Talk about these 36 permits. I'm here tonight on all 36 because I tell you about 10 or 12 of them are right here in Pike County. Ladies and gentlemen, I can take you right now, just like Speaker Stumbo referred to, just like Representative Steele referred to. I can take you to some property right now that is absolutely unbelievable to knock your stocks off. It's got clean water. It's grazing cattle right now. It's acting like farmland, and it is acres and acres of property that are absolutely beautiful. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Before the next speaker, if I could ask the next block of speakers, 21 to 30, to go in the back room, please, to get ready for speaking, to get your briefing. Speakers 21 to 30. Thank you. Sorry.
I'm speaker number 9. I'm State Representative Hubert Collins, Representative Johnson, Martin, part of Pike, and part of Floyd. I've been the House Transportation Chair for 17 years, also the ranking member on natural resources and education. The influence of coal in these counties is of great importance. Jobs from coal is allowing men and women to support their families, put bread on the table, clothes on their backs, and educate their kids, and also try to live a more comfortable life. But this is in danger. The EPA regulation not only affects the coal industry, but it affects farming, development, and road construction. We have come to realize there's a war on coal. I, along with all of our miners and all of our coal people, will fight this war as long as it lasts. The economy is already bad, but the continued old and new regulations makes it devastating. With the rejection of the 36 permits, of which 6 of them are in one of the counties that I represent, it will mean that the families may have to go without food by losing their job. But the continued regulations, the old and the new, makes it more devastating and make it more sure that the people may have to lose the ability to get food. Can you, the EPA, with this dishonorable decision, accept this action? Every man, woman, and child have the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. These responsible decisions will take this liberty away. We will not stand for these actions. It is unbelievable, and I'd like to know the answer. Why is it that the water running from a mine site is more restricted than the bottled water and the tap water that we drink? This is wrong. This is wrong. Thank you all. May God bless.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next speaker, please.
I'm speaker number 10. My name is John Short. I'm state representative of the 92nd District in the heart of coal country in eastern Kentucky. I know that you've heard a lot about needing to study, look for permits, and start releasing them. I'm going to tell you what was going to happen in eastern Kentucky if you don't release them. Our schools have already a low attendance with their population going down over the last 10 years. This means that we'll not have the money in our school system to give our children the education that they deserve. And if no permits are issued, our population will go down even more. We have already started busing our young children for longer periods of times, which they do not deserve because of consolidation of schools. Every business in eastern Kentucky revolves around coal. I have never worked in the mines, but I started making a living from coal as soon as I graduated from Alice Floyd College. Our hospitals, Walmarts, restaurants, I can go on and on about all the businesses that are built on mountaintop development sites. We have thousands of fine homes built on these sites. I have a cousin, Tim Short. He gave $1.6 million for 4 acres of mountaintop development to put a car dealership on. I have several horses of my own and love going to central Kentucky, looking at the horse farms, but several of these historic farms have been turned into housing developments and shopping malls. To me, these farms are a lot more valuable and beautiful than mountains that are economically worth nothing except for the coal that lies beneath them. I don't come to Lexington with my coal mining buddies and look like a bunch of idiots saying, "Save the horse farms!" No, I see this as development of jobs so people can provide for their families. I own about 250 acres where I live, and it has never been mined, but I wish I could talk somebody into mining it. We also use mountaintop development for grazing cattle and horses, and we have the largest elk herd east of the Mississippi that forages on these development sites. What would happen if a group of legislators got together here in Kentucky and passed a bill into law that would require every stream in the state of Kentucky to have to pass the same regulations that you want us to abide by. I seriously doubt there would be a stream in Kentucky that could pass it. What would the EPA do then if they had to enforce the law that they're enforcing it on us? It is also, well...
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And if you do run out of time, please submit those written comments up at the registration table so we can make it part of the record. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Speaker number 13, I'm Dr. Charles Harden, McGoffin County Judge Executive and a family physician in Sidersville, Kentucky. I would like for you to consider three things when making this decision. Number one, poverty breeds pollution. We already have enough problems in eastern Kentucky with providing for pollution control things such as clean water, proper sewer. If you remove some of these jobs, I as a county judge will not be able to deal with some of the household waste and other pollution things. Number two, when you raise the price of electricity from somewhere 11 to 25%, there are going to be a lot of elderly people who sure can't afford their medications then. I know this is about health, but if you can't afford your medications, you don't have much health either. Please consider that. The third thing is that I think that when I've talked to most coal miners, they understand that this is a future that is shrinking and diminishing. But we need time. This does not need to be done abruptly. You need to sit down with the business leaders in the coal industry, with the coal miners, with the EPA, with the environmentalists, and let's get a program that doesn't do this abruptly. Give us time so that wind can be developed in Pike County. If you do this quickly, if you shut down the coal industry quickly, when the energy prices go up, you will have a backlash, and I will guarantee you in 5 to 10 years, you won't be able to control coal mining, you won't be able to control pollution, and we won't be in no mood to compromise. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do want to say I really appreciate everyone adhering to the 2 minutes to respect all the speakers. Thank you for that. Next speaker, please.
Judge Rutherford, number 12, County Judge Executive of Pike County, the largest coal-producing county in Central Appalachia. I'm wondering why no Washington-based EPA is here. I've got an idea why they're not here, why they sent you all out of Atlanta. No, the video that they caught an official in EPA in Washington, what did they say? What did the video say? We're going to crucify the fossil fuel industry. That's coal. And you started doing a daggone good job. But I want to tell you all something. We're going to have a crisis in this country that you all are causing, you bureaucrats out of Atlanta, and those in Washington are causing, that's going to be a crisis unheard of in America. This is a shame. You talked about water, water, water. And you all have put in place the most stringent regs that you could put in place that can't be met by this coal industry. Don't you realize that on the conductibility of water, that what you're requiring is beyond most of the public water systems in America? Look at your numbers. Look at them. There's no way you put in regulations to stop the coal mining in Central Appalachia. Not only that, you are going to ruin this country. We got a severe problem of security in this country of importing this oil. You don't realize that 42 cents out of every dollar in Washington is spent for imported oil and opportunity. This administration in Washington cut the money off for research, cut the money off for clean coal technology, so that you could strangle the coal industry of this country. We're not going to stand up it. We're going to fight you till the end. These coal miners are the heroes. They're not the villains. And thank God for coal, and God bless America.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Speaker number 15. I'm the Martin County Judge Executive Kelly Callahan. That's spelled as C-A-L-L-A-H-A-M as in Mary. I want to talk to you about fairness. In 2009, you guys renewed the 402 permits for Kentucky, and then in April of 2010, EPA accepted the changes that the state applied to the 402 permits, and the state was able to issue 27 permits. Why are those standards no longer acceptable? In 2011, the EPA sent letters out to 55 permits. This was the same letter. 36 of them was deemed as objection letters and 19 of them as comment letters. How can it be the same? It was the exact same letter. On July the 21st, 2011, EPA implementation of the final guidance to Eastern Kentucky and West Virginia, other states in the same ecosystem, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Virginia, and Tennessee, have no such limitations. How is our water different? You know, when I first come in here, I met a good friend of mine that when he was growing up, he lived by the Tug Fork. And if many of you all in this room know, the Tug Fork separates Kentucky and West Virginia. And I was proceeded to tell him that a friend of mine had caught a whole bunch of smallmouth bass in a place, and I said, "Where'd you catch those?" And he said, "You're not going to believe this, but I caught it in the Tug River." Now, you're talking about a river back when my friend was swimming in it 30 years ago. You would be black when you come out. So, you know, you all have done a great job, but it's time to get off our back. I mean, our streams are good, and I don't understand, you know, the fairness. When your all's director, Lisa Jackson, has to slip into Kentucky and have meetings in secretive places with a bunch of tree huggers, the people wouldn't work in a pie factory to taste them. She is not hearing. She's not hearing both sides of the story. So I just want to ask you guys, the EPA and the president, to get off our back and let our coal miners work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Again, thank you. Thank you for coming. I'm speaker number 14. My name is Randy Thompson. That's Thompson, period. I'm the county judge executive of Knott County. I just want to say our local governments depend greatly on the tax revenue from coal, and we simply cannot afford to provide the services our people expect and deserve without this revenue. Plus, our entire East Kentucky economic base is totally dependent on the jobs provided by the coal industry. Now, I thought I heard one of the speakers from one of the environmental groups earlier today say these hearings weren't supposed to be about jobs. And I thought to myself, the hell they ain't. You tell several hundred East Kentucky coal miners they're going to lose their jobs because of something you created called conductivity, you damn well better be prepared to hear from them. These laid-off workers are now trying to buy their groceries, gasoline, pay their medical expenses, mortgages, car payments, and more with unemployment benefits that don't come close to allowing them to make their ends meet. And from some of the comments I heard Tuesday in Frankfurt, I got the impression some of you are more concerned with aquatic life than you are human life. You say denying these permits is based on science. Well, even if it is science, shouldn't that science be seasoned with just a little bit of common sense? I mean, based on your reasoning, I need to start arresting kids that are peeing in my public pool. Because of declining coal tax revenue since 2010, I've had to lay off nearly half of my county government's workforce. You say permits are being denied because the mining will pollute some streams. I'm not convinced that's the real reason. Otherwise, you'd be assisting us in getting rid of the real pollution problem of failing septic tanks, straight pipes dumping raw sewage into the streams. I don't know about you, but I'd 10 to 1 rather take a drink of water from a running mine site than downstream of 100 straight pipes. If you're truly serious about preventing pollution, issue these permits and encourage more mining. Allow our local governments to use the stream mitigation funds to pay for construction of wastewater treatment plants along the streams. If you're concerned about safe drinking water, issue permits. Encourage more mining so the local governments can receive more tax revenue, build more and better water treatment facilities. During the past 7 years in Knott County, I've invested $25 million of coal severance tax revenue to provide water to Knott County families. Water that is cleaner and safer than these families would have ever expected to receive had it not been for coal tax dollars. Put my people back to work.
Next speaker, please.
Harlan County Judge Executive Joe Griesop, Grieshop. I am speaker number 17. The war on poverty in Appalachia was declared in the 1960s with President John F. Kennedy and Lyndon Baines Johnson. Their heart went out to our people and also to the coal industry. Much thanks to our natural resource, coal, and the coal industry, because they are, and the companies have helped us make steady progress in upgrading our quality of life. Together, we have created coal jobs for our families, and we also were provided coal severance dollars for our projects. These projects would not have been funded but for the coal industry generating those tax dollars from the value of severed coal. Now we are faced with a new war, a war which will take away our opportunity for a better life. Subjective decision-making has occurred, and because it has created an economic crisis for Harlan County and other counties in this region. Why, I ask, does the EPA make decisions based on conductivity testing that is not logical? Coal companies have a good record of stewardship of their permitted land. They have taken the extraction process seriously, but they cannot tolerate a moving set of rules. Our mountain streams and rivers are cleaner today than they have been in years past. Ask the thriving wildlife, ask the fish. If they could speak, they would tell you they love where they live right now. Coal has been our economic engine for the region, and coal plays a major role in America's growth. And I ask you to give our families a break. Come to the table, discuss the issues, and work through the process. Thank you.
Okay, next speaker, please.
My name is...
It'll come up. Keep talking, they'll adjust. Go ahead. Yeah, it's on.
Yes, my name is R.D. Doc Marshall, M-A-R-S-H-A-L-L, Floyd County Judge Executive. I come here tonight with mixed feelings, feelings that go back a long way. We all come from communities that we know were founded, were built, were promoted with coal. I happen to have one in my county that prospered and was noted across the United States of America in the 40s, 50s, and 60s by the name of Wheelwright, Kentucky. It was a community that had everything, but they had it because of coal. Coal made it possible. Other communities followed. 20 years ago, there were 153 mines actively mining coal in Floyd County, Kentucky. Today, I have five mines that are struggling big time. And if the EPA has anything to do, those 5 will disappear before this year is over. We need answers. We need plenty of them. Why are we here? We're here simply because of 3, the big 3. Not what Washington considers the big 3, but we're here for jobs. We're here for families, and we're here for communities. And by golly, I will come back. I was here 3 years ago. If it takes 3 more years, I'll be here again and voice my support. I'll always stand up for our people in coal. I believe they're the backbone of this country. And when those lights grow dim, brother, they're going to find out right quick. Let us stand together. We've got a great motto in the Commonwealth of Kentucky: united we stand.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker, please.
I'm speaker number 21, Andy Willis, A-N-D-Y-W-I-L-L-I-S. I'm going to begin by quoting from the United States Constitution. The 10th Amendment states, "The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people." Now, William Douglas, the longest-serving U.S. Supreme Court Justice, said, "The Constitution is not neutral. It was designed to take the government off the backs of the people." Congress took it upon itself to establish the U.S. EPA to enforce the laws of the Clean Water Act and the Clean Air Act. The U.S. EPA has since overstepped its bounds by passing regulations which are not in the best interests of the states or their people. Now, I want to quote from a great American, Thomas Jefferson. He said, "The policy of the American government is to leave their citizens free, neither restraining nor aiding them in their pursuits." He also said, "Were we directed from Washington when to sow and when to reap, we should soon want bread." He also said, "Most bad government has grown out of too much government." And finally, "I predict future happiness for Americans if they can prevent the government from wasting the labors of the people under the pretense of taking care of them." Now, I know there are some people in this crowd that probably love the idea of the government taking care of them, but as for me, I hereby request that the U.S. EPA stop trying to take care of me by outlawing the mining and use of coal. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker, please.
Speaker 22, Eric Chance, C-H-A-N-C-E, with Appalachian Voices. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. I believe that the EPA should reaffirm their objections to these 36 inadequate permits. The state has failed to do an adequate reasonable potential analysis and has failed to include permit limits adequate to protect water quality. The EPA is not the one holding up these permits. They are simply trying to bring up the quality of permits issued in Kentucky to the standard of other states like West Virginia. The party truly responsible for holding these permits up is the Kentucky Energy and Environment Cabinet, because they are not capable of writing a permit that would require companies to mine responsible and do it without ruining water quality. The cabinet is so starved for funding and beholden to the coal industry that they are incapable of regulating it. In addition to their inability to issue adequate permits, they have proven their inability to regulate coal by setting inadequate bond amounts, failing to list streams in the coal fields on the 303D list of impaired streams, allowing more mines to be covered under the general permit than there should be, failing to develop TMDLs for the streams actually listed as impaired, not reviewing discharge monitoring reports, failing to do enforcement actions on water quality problems they have identified, failing to ensure water quality and other data submitted by the companies is actually true, failing to even know the most basic information like the number and location of all the facilities they are supposed to be regulating. Finally, the permits at issue here represent a small percent of the mining permits issued by the state because more than 2,000 mines are covered under the general permit, which is not at issue. As active mines across the state are idled, approval of these permits would not create jobs because natural gas is cheaper than coal.
I would ask everyone to please show the same courtesy to all the speakers that are being shown tonight. Please. We're not going to start. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
My name is Pallavi Podapati, P-O-D-A-P-A-T-I, and I'm the 23rd speaker. I'm a concerned citizen from Hazard, Kentucky. I've lived in Hazard, Kentucky since I was 3 years old. I'm 21 now, and I don't want to call anywhere else home. Of course, I feel a natural desire to protect the place where my family and loved ones live. However, I find that laws and regulations meant to protect the health and safety of my community aren't being enforced or are under attack. And corporations with no ethical ties or obligations to uphold the well-being of my community are given enough leeway to do anything to increase their profit margins. So I feel compelled to speak here and draw attention to the fact that these permits denied by the EPA are indicative of the regard, or to speak quite truthfully, the complete disregard of these companies towards my community, my family, and myself. It is unacceptable that Kentucky's DOW accepted permits that had insufficient data to establish reasonable potential analyses. I find it necessary to state that there is a reason these permits were denied. Current permits in Kentucky are inadequate and aren't even being enforced by the state.
Next speaker, please.
My name is Haven King, Havenking. I'm the county clerk in Prairie County, Hazard, Kentucky. I'm also the president of Coal Mining Our Future. Now, I've often wondered and thought about what the EPA executive in Texas, when he said that, the way that we got their attention is when we would come into a Mediterranean town and Turkish people, and the first 5 men we come to, we crucified. So the way, I don't think you all would do that, but that's one way. He said that town was easy to handle after that. So what you all have done, you've took the thing with conductivity. One lady named Madeline O'Hara took prayer out of school in this country. One lady named Lisa Jackson is going to stop coal mining if we don't stop her. Her name is Lisa Jackson, and she is totally against our people. And EPA, you like your conductivity. Don't take my word for it. When you all go back, the drinking water that you drink, go ahead and do the conductivity on it and see what it is. The EPA wants the permits that we do at 300. My drinking water in Hazard, Kentucky at Chavy's, where I live, is 725 coming out of the Hazard district. Now, I guess that's crucifixion. I mean, you're really trying to, poverty you are going to see when our people can't, they have to choose between power, they have to choose between medicine and food. Now, you're going to see what poverty is when you see people go hungry and when you see people losing their jobs. There's hundreds and hundreds. We've actually lost 1,500 jobs in our 2 counties in the last 3 months. Those jobs, $60,000 to $65,000 per year, we're losing those. And it's because now when people die because they can't provide for their family, they're going to get rowdy and they're going to get rough. But whenever they die, I want you to think about that when you make these decisions, because that's going to be on you whenever that happens. Thank you.
Okay. Next.
Speaker number 26. My name is Maxine Stamper.
Excuse me one
what
second.
I'm, it,
Excuse me. Please be courteous. You can't. Thank you. Go ahead again. Please start.
My name is Maxine Stamper, and I'm concerned about all the jobs that we've lost up in eastern Kentucky. Our coal miners have lost jobs, and when the coal goes down, it also affects their communities there, and they're starting to lose jobs. Businesses are going to start closing. And we have, I'm a coal miner's wife, and I have brothers that work in the coal industry, and that's our livelihood. I mean, that's what we live on. That's what we make a living here today. We need our jobs, and we want to do our jobs right. We want to have clean water, but if we don't have clean water, when the streams, the straight pipes go in, and we want to clean them up with coal severance money, but if we haven't got that coal severance money, we can't clean up the streams. We can't stop the sewage going into the streams. We can't stop the runoffs of the agriculture, the the fertilizer, the insecticides, the salt off of your roads you treat your roads with, that raises conductivity. And what do we do on it? Do we leave a roads where we get killed every day? But if you check it, when conductivity in your water, when the salt's applied to the road, the runoff, the water goes back to the streams, it affects your quality of water. But yet, I mean, our city water, it's better than what our city water's not as good as the water coming out of these mine waters. You want it 300 to 500, be acceptable, no more than 5. Most mines can't do it that way, but we can drink our city water and it's 700 and something. We can drink our bottled water, 500, 600 or 1,000, but it's acceptable. So we need your help. We need help getting our jobs back. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Before the next speaker, I'd like to send the next group of speakers, number 31 to 50. If you can go to the back of the room, to the man holding up the number 2. Thank you.
My name is Cordis Cuz Bishop, CORDISCUZZBISHOP. The people of Appalachia are treated like anuses. Normally, I'd say something else, okay? Perhaps we need to put some thought into acting the same way as the African Americans did in the 60s in order to get their civil rights. I'm from that era and saw what they had to do to get their civil rights. Maybe that's what we need to do. Appalachian miners and families are being discriminated because you're taking away our jobs and our civil rights. Our U.S. Constitution says we have the right to work. You, the EPA, are taking away these rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and if I could remind you to say your speaker number first, that would help me out for tracking.
Speaker 27.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mark Miller. I live in Prestonsburg, and I work here in Pikeville for Wayne Supply Company. We're the distributor for Caterpillar equipment and construction machinery, provide parts and service support to our coal customers. I come today to represent our 160 employees at the Pikeville branch, whose jobs depend on the coal market, and to show support for the miners of our region. We are full of concern and uncertainty about our future because of the regulatory ambush on the coal industry by the EPA. Your changing of the permit requirements in April of 2010 has effectively strangled our industry. Why were only 6 states singled out or targeted for conductivity? And then why was it reduced to just Kentucky and West Virginia? Why are your guidelines only for the coal industry? As the rest of the world grows their coal-generating electric capacity at a record pace, the United States is hard at work, shutting down all of our coal plants, resulting in massive layoffs, mine shutdowns, downsizings, and company closures. I personally believe that God provided us with an abundant supply of natural resources, including coal, to power our nation's economic engine. We move mountains and we build roads, make usable flat land for business development and recreational areas. We use the same machinery and the same earth-moving techniques to mine coal. We do so responsibly and in compliance with mining regulations written to ensure we reclaim all mines to acceptable standards. We gather today atop a 14 million bank cubic yard fill of the original Leviza Fork of the Big Sandy River. The cut-through project enabled Pikeville to grow and prosper. Gentlemen, let us continue working, issue our permits. We strongly encourage you to withdraw your objections. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker.
Good evening. I'm speaker number 30. My name is Susan Kirkland, and
I don't guess I would have permission to have a 15-second power off, could we? To have the lights turned off and let them feel what it's like to have the power turned off. And by the way, just to let Mr. Jim know, DC is also powered by coal. That, continue on that, since I don't guess they're going to turn the power off. Coal jobs. They're energy for this country. 24% of Kentucky coal powers this country. But it's not just the energy. It's the railroad jobs, it's the truck driver jobs, it's the jobs that get our money and our goods to our people. And when you start cutting coal, you cut business expenses, you cut power, you cut everything. Our expenses go up. You take these people's jobs, not only are you taking their jobs, but you're also making it more expensive to live, more expensive to buy food, because they have to pay for higher power bills. Their home power bills go up. Everything goes up when you cut coal. And you think that it's an environmental issue. They are doing everything they can to meet and exceed EPA regulations. And it's like one of the prior speakers said, not only do they meet the regulations, but now you're changing the rules. It's not fair, and all it is an all-out war. And these people are claiming war on you guys because they want their jobs, they want their livelihoods, and they want their chance to raise their families. And if you cut it, then you're cutting half of your country. There's nothing else I can say about it.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Yes, my name's Charles Baird. I'm chairman, I should say, of Co-operators and Associates here based in Pikeville, Kentucky. First, I'd like to thank all the state officials, particularly Secretary Peters and Bruce Scott, and I think all the folks that have attended here, the public officials. I don't think you've seen a single public official oppose this. These are our elected representatives. You had the Speaker of the House here, you had the Majority Leader, you had the 2 United States Senators, you had a Congressman, you had magistrates, you had judges. You'll not see that anywhere. And they all have the same message, and I think we need to thank them for being here. I've already used up half my time nearly, but Secretary Peters used the word arbitrary. Really what EPA's done is not arbitrary, it's illegal. They've completely ignored the APA, which is the Administrative Procedures Act that deals with regulatory matters. No public comment. It was immediately taken effect, no notice to anybody. Here it is, boys, you do it. If you don't like it, you can kiss it. Now, that's the Obama way of doing things. And I'm not blaming Region 4 by any means, but their bosses are controlling the situation. And it's basically the attitude, stop me if you can. Until you stop me, I'm going to do whatever it takes to stop coal. And we're going to fight back, and there's a hearing on that in July 14th in Washington. This has nothing whatsoever to do with the environment. Let's face the facts. If EPA and these folks back here were concerned about the environment, they'd be looking at straight pipes that are here by the tens of thousands. If they were concerned about the environment in our streams, pollution of our streams, they would be looking at the millions of gallons of sewage that's placed in the streams every week. And they don't. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm speaker number 32, Gary Bentley. And before I get started, I just want everybody that's here, we're all here for the same reasons. Look around at the politicians that were here earlier that decided to leave and don't want to stand around and listen to what we have to say. Think about that around election time. Look at the politicians. There's some that stayed, and I appreciate it. They're here for us. Look at the ones that got up and left after they spoke. That's where we need to be looking. But I'm here today as a Kentucky coal miner, a father, a concerned citizen, and I'm here for the same reasons as everybody. The people of Appalachia are scared right now. We only have one source of income, one industry, and that's coal. Without that right now, Appalachia will not survive. These communities will turn into small ghost towns. Since November, I've watched hundreds of my co-workers, thousands of our local coal miners lose their jobs. Now, 6, 9 months later, a year, these people are faced losing their homes. They're struggling to support their families. These people and these coal miners, we've been let down by our politicians, by the coal corporations we work for, and the coal organizations. If everybody would just work together and try to make this work, we would all still be working. Granted, these coal corporations wouldn't make the billions of dollars that they make every year, but us, we would still have our jobs and be able to support our families. The people of our communities and our coal miners and our local coal officials, we need to take action. We need to send a message to our politicians and to these large companies, these CEOs, and let them know that we're not going to stop until they make this right, till we have our jobs back. We need this industry to survive. Look back at the community members and the miners in the 1970s in the Union Wars. They took pride in this area. They took pride in their jobs. They stood up for what they believed in. Let's send a message to these politicians, to these CEOs, to the federal government, to the state government. We will not back down. We will fight for our communities, and most importantly, we're going to fight for our families and make sure the coal industry stays around. Let's show everybody the real faces of coal and what the people of Appalachia stand for and what we can do.
Okay, next speaker, please.
My name is Rusty Rowe, R-U-S-T-Y-R-O-W-E, and I'm speaker number 31. I'm here tonight to represent JMP Coal Holdings and the over 400 employees that depend on coal to support their families that work with our organization. For over 30 years, I have worked in the coal industry, and just like a lot of you, the only reason I get up in the morning and go out to work is to provide food, clothing, and a place to live for my family. But now, our ability to provide for our families is under attack. Many of the people attacking us don't even live here. Over the years, we've worked through many changes in regulations, policies, and procedures, but there's always a path that could have been taken to lead to a mining permit. That has all changed now. Under this administration, the EPA is choking us to death. They've become involved in basically every environmental aspect of the mining industry. They use delay tactics and won't give us specific written comments so that we can address deficiencies. Last summer, one of our mining permits was one of those 36 permits. It was actually one of the 19 in September that was objected to, that the Kentucky Division of Water approved. The federal EPA objected to it. They used the same comments to object to all 19 of those permits. Earlier, I told you why I get up every morning: to provide for my family. Few things in life get more personal than when someone, and that someone is your government, is trying to take away your livelihood, trying to take away your ability to provide for your family, for the people you love. It has become clear to me that the administration and the EPA do not care about miners and their families. My only hope at this point is that come January, we get a new president and we get a new EPA, and that is our only hope.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jimmy Hall, and I want to thank the miners. I want to thank the EPA. You know, we all got rules. They give me this piece of paper. They told me I got 2 minutes to speak. Some of our high-dollar politicians get up here and tell me about the golf courses they built here and there. They overrun their 2 minutes. I live in Letcher County, Kentucky, okay? And it's up there in Dean, around Dean area. I don't see no golf courses. All I see is what I seen when I was a kid. The same old buildings, the same dust. You know, why can't you just do something right? Why can't you just keep the money in Letcher County? Why can't you take and give us water? Why can't you pay for taps for these people? All we want to do is water. We don't give a heck about a golf course. What are we asking for? I don't like repeating myself. I hate to beg. I hate to thank everybody, shake their hand, and I know we ain't doing nothing because the only thing they care about, who's going to get elected. I don't care if a Republican gets elected. I don't care if a Democrat gets elected. We need water. My neighbor's got 2 babies that can't even take a bath come September when they go back to school. It ain't time yet. I got 27 minutes. The next time I speak, I don't know what I got to do. Go to every one of these meetings that I can find till somebody finally listens to me. Why can't you do what is right? Follow the rules. Follow the rules. If they tell you 2 minutes, take your 2 minutes and go home or go back and sit down. No, I'll go home. I'm coming home. This is my home. I was born and raised here. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone.
I'm number 33.
No, please wait. No. Excuse me. Everyone is entitled to make their comments. Please show the same courtesy to everyone. Thank you. Everyone, we want to try to hear from as many people as possible tonight. Wait.
I'm number 33. Name's Dave Moss, spelled M-O-S-S. And I'm the Vice President of the Kentucky Coal Association. I'm here tonight in voicing my opposition to the EPA's objections to 36 mining permits here in Kentucky. I find it appalling the EPA has continued to try to curb coal mining production here in eastern Kentucky using political science versus sound science. The EPA originally stated in their interim guidance regulations that they would limit coal companies to a benchmark of 500 microsiemens in regards to conductivity, which would affect 6 Appalachian coal states, Kentucky being included. This was issued on April 1st, 2010. After much consideration, the EPA decided that their final guidance document should only be issued to 2 Appalachian coal states, shockingly, West Virginia and Kentucky. Let us analyze why the White House and the EPA decided to make this decision. The final guidance on conductivity for the Appalachian Coal Basin removed Virginia, Ohio, and Pennsylvania from the original interim guidance documents. Why leave off all 3 significant coal mining states if these new guidelines are intended to protect clean water? The EPA realized that these 3 states are key important battleground states in the upcoming presidential election this November. Could the EPA have been instructed to not harm the re-election of President Obama? I think you should ask the 42% uncommitted in the room here tonight. Coal mining creates opportunities for over 70,000 folks here in the Commonwealth. I think it's important to understand that every region of the state is interdependent on one another. Because of coal mining here in eastern Kentucky, especially here in Pike County, cheap electricity is produced and Louisville and Lexington prosper. Because of coal mining in eastern Kentucky, mining machinery companies like Wayne Supply, Brandeis, and Rudd Equipment, all companies based in Louisville, are able to employ thousands around the state. So why are we shocked this has come to be? President Obama, in every year of his presidency, has tried to ratchet back fossil fuel energy production here in the United States. Oil, natural gas, especially coal, have all had targets on their back since day one. So speaking tonight in Pikeville is another hurdle we're willing to jump through in order to get the president's attention that coal matters in the United States. God bless America and burn coal.
Madam Speaker, I'm number 36. My name is Rocky Hudson, Hudson. I want to thank you so much for coming to our beautiful land. I wish that I had been able to feed you before you came to this assembly. By the time I get through talking, I think you're going to be able to feel the love. I'm a real love machine. I'm 78 years old, and I represent the Hazard Perry County senior citizens. Without our coal miners, we would not have the quality of life that we have. For the past 40 years, the coal miners in Perry County Knott County, Leslie County, Letcher County, Breathitt County, they have supplied us with a quality of life that we would have never had before. And I'm so glad that the EPA was able to come to this beautiful land today. I thank God for the beautiful sunshine that He provided. You were able to see these mountains that we love so much. You have been experiencing a little piece of paradise today. For 78 years, I've lived in this wonderful land. I brought a 92-year-old senior citizen with me, and she said for me to tell you that she's not a senior citizen, she's a recycled teenager. As Moses said to Pharaoh, when Moses said to Pharaoh, "Let my people go," I'm going to ask the EPA to let our people go back to work. In the little town of Hazard, Kentucky, we have a hospital that was made on reclaimed mountaintop removal. Had this hospital not been there, I would not have been able to reach my 78th year of birth. I was rushed to this hospital in emergency room, and they saved my life. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Alex Deshay, speaker number 36. I'm a Sierra Club member, but tonight I speak to you as a proud Kentuckian. My grandfather was a deep miner in Pike County, and I want a future here for my family and myself. I have a vision of a future where people are valued over profits, where our water is safe to drink, and where I won't fear to let children play in the creeks that I enjoy so much. And I want an economy that is as diverse and as rich as the people of Eastern Kentucky. I want to live in a place where our future is valued as much as our proud past. In order for this to happen, we need leadership that is willing to protect our most valuable resource in Eastern Kentucky, the people. The Kentucky Department of Water should stand up and protect the people of Eastern Kentucky by complying with and enforcing the Clean Water Act, a law designed to protect people. Coal companies should be good stewards of the land and the people whose jobs they are responsible for. They can provide good jobs and be good stewards by mining in a responsible manner and investing in proper reclamation of the land. They should be doing this instead of fighting the EPA, the agency charged with protecting the land and the people. We shouldn't be forced to choose between jobs and healthy communities. We shouldn't have to choose between clean water and feeding our families. Few other areas have had to make that choice. It's not the people's fault. Our state leadership is failing us. What they are being asked to do, which is to ensure we have sufficient clean water protections for healthy communities, is not hard or unattainable. We're proud of our past here in Kentucky, and let's be proud of our future. I call on our state leaders, and that is our politicians and our coal companies alike, to stop bickering and to get to work. Clean water benefits everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jared Arnett, President CEO of the Southeast Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, speaker number 38. I speak on behalf of over 500 businesses in Eastern Kentucky and 8 counties and nearly 25,000 employees that rely every day on this industry. They're all asking me one question, and that's at what cost? As business people, we make decisions looking at a benefit and a cost, and the only benefit that we're hearing from you is that we're going to have clean drinking water and fish will have a safe environment and that we'll have clean water to swim in. Well, I don't think that's quantifiable. I think it's an emotional benefit. But what we can quantify is the cost. What we can look at is in the most recent 19 objections to these permits, we've lost the potential of $128 million in revenue for our state government. We've lost the potential for 3,800 jobs. And these are good paying jobs that feed our families and feed economic activity into Eastern Kentucky. I'm not an advocate for unhealthy drinking water or for reckless damage to the environment, but I am an advocate for the benefits derived from mountaintop development sites. I'm an advocate for businesses and our people. I believe our coal companies are mining more responsibly than they ever have before. When I look around, there's more benefits than just the direct benefits. Where are our most beautiful housing developments above the floodplain on mountaintop development sites? Where is our airport that our community and our chamber is working so hard to provide commercial air service for that will be funded by coal severance dollars on a reclaimed mountaintop development site? Where is the most conducive habitat for our growing elk population and tourism industry? On a reclaimed mountaintop development site. Our spec buildings and industrial parks used to recruit new industry on mountaintop development sites. At some points, many years from now, we'll be ready for this shift. But to do it now will prove disastrous for our people. Our small businesses will close their doors. My question is to ask, at what cost?
Thank you. Okay, before the next speaker, you can stay up there. I just want to call the next group of numbers 60 to 80. If you could please go in the back and meet with our staff. Also, if there is anyone who would like to make a comment tonight who is not registered, please do so now at the registration table to get a number. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. My name is David Wilder, D-A-V-I-D-W-I-L-D-E-R, and I'm a concerned citizen from Paintsville, Kentucky. And I'd like to say that as coal miners, we care about the mountains. We care about the streams. We also care about development. If you look at these beautiful mountains out here, they're beautiful to look at. You can't build on them. You can't do anything with them. We as individuals here, we deserve the right to be able to develop our mountains and develop our properties. We also deserve freedom. Property owners should be treated fairly and be able to do with their property as they see fit. We also want the EPA to treat everyone fairly and consistently. I can stand up here and talk, but I don't think I can say anything that hasn't already been said, much more eloquently by some of the political people up here. But I'm here as a concerned citizen, and I want the EPA to realize that we need to be treated equally and fairly as all the other states are. The EPA should also realize that they need to follow the procedures. If they want to change some regulations, there are procedures that they need to go through. The comment period and some of the other things that they have to follow that they're not following at all. They're just feeding us exactly what they want. And another concern I have is where are they getting these numbers that they come up with? You know, these aren't anything that we're allowed to see any place. That's no way to just pull numbers out and feed them to us. And I can tell you what you've done here about what you're pushing on us right here, right now. You've woken a sleeping giant. The coal miners in Kentucky and West Virginia will band together, and I'll guarantee you will hear from us in November. Your EPA is just a puppet for President Obama, but we're going to show you what for come November.
My name is Chris, C-H-R-I-S, Haverly, H-A-V-E-R-L-Y. I own CNC Mining, active permit number 8488078. I had a prepared statement, but after hearing some of the comments made, I knew I couldn't get in with 2 minutes, so I'm just going to fire from the hip here and say what I think. Nothing worse than someone come up here and misinform people about comments. Everyone has a right to their opinion, a right to state anything they want. But to say that the mining industry is not regulated or the permitting department doesn't do an adequate job is ridiculous. I can assure you, I do what most people wouldn't even consider mining. I reclaim gob piles. And it took me over a year to get a permit to reclaim a gob pile, which was actually cleaning up a mess that had been there since 1940 and cost me $100,000 in engineering fees. I put up a $65,000 cash bond for a 13-acre site for it to be hydro-seeded and reclaimed when I'm finished. So for these people, for whatever reason, they want to come up here and say that the mining industry gets away with this and that, you don't get away with anything in the mining industry. My grandfather was a miner. My father was a miner. My family has over 100 years in the coal industry. My dad worked 47 years in the UMWA and never had a lost time accident. He died at 82, a happy man, because he knew he got up and went to work every day and he earned everything he got. And that's all every person in this building wants, is a chance to go to work. I have no animosity towards you people. I have no animosity towards the EPA, because I know there are people that abuse the privileges and rights to whatever they do. But I can guarantee you the mining industry is the most regulated industry in this country, making it the most regulated industry in the world. I was fined $1,600 for a coal truck tracking dirt out on the highway. I was fined $900 for a loader having a tail light broken out. My problem, my issue, I paid it, but don't keep people from doing things they know that to raise their families and feed their families. We deserve the right to work. Thank you.
Hello, I'm speaker number 39. My name is Dennis Hatfield. That's D-E-N-N-I-S, and I think they know how to spell Hatfield. I live in Louisa, Kentucky, and I'm a third-generation coal miner, and I am a concerned citizen who supports the mining of coal here. Because I live and work here, I know how important these coal jobs are. I know because my family and I, we're every bit citizens as much as those who oppose mining. It's not about citizens versus coal industry. We know what it takes to survive. We happen to be citizens who support coal. We're proud to be part of it. And this is not a debate about wanting to have clean water and good living environment, because we all live here and we want that too. But I also know that poverty can do far more damage than our regulated coal mining environment can. You cannot regulate poverty. You cannot diminish its impacts. Without coal mining, most of our local tax base will disappear. We would lose the severance taxes that help our counties pay their bills. Our quality of life would change. We wouldn't have the police and fire protection, the water extensions, the things that give us a standard of living. We would lose those comforts that are here only because the coal company economy supports them. I drive on Route 23 every day, and I know that jobs depend on coal mining here. I expect the rights of others to disagree, but this is more than just a battle about mountaintop mining. This is about all coal mining. These regulations will stop underground and prep plants and everything in every aspect of coal. No one really objects to being held to a reasonable standard. We understand and we want to abide by the laws, but you can't shut down a coal industry. By the way, my day job is general manager of CAM Mining with 400 employees and 400 families, and I speak for them as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we're over here.
Hello, I'm Bobby May, chairman of the Republican Party of Buchanan County, across the border in Virginia. And I'm here tonight to support our hard-working coal miners. I'm proud to be the son of a coal miner and the father of a coal miner. And I'm going to say something to all these miners assembled here tonight that you're not going to hear from Barack Hussein Obama. And that's God bless a coal miner. And by the way, if anyone's not aware of this, Hussein in Arabic means I hate coal miners. And folks, I want to say this to you tonight, to anybody that thinks that coal mining is ugly, just wait until you see poverty. This is a war on coal. Barack Hussein Obama declared economic war on the coal fields of Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia. But this fall, we need to declare and win a political war we put Lisa Jackson on the unemployment rolls instead of hardworking coal miners. But folks, be not deceived. Lisa Jackson is not the problem. The man that appointed her is the problem. And if you're not part of the solution here tonight and this fall in November, then you are part of the problem. According to information I got from the internet, the 19 most recent objections alone are estimated to have cost Kentucky 3,800 coal-related jobs and more than $123 million in coal severance taxes alone. My advice to the EPA would be approve these permits, turn coal miners loose to go back to work, and man, we need this Social Security, the national budget, and so on, so please let our coal miners go back to work by approving these permits. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mike Hansel. I'm speaker number 64. This morning, we heard a lot of rhetoric about clean water. We heard a lot of rhetoric about coal mining. We heard a lot of rhetoric, period. If you want to know what these people think, all you have to do is listen to the applause and listen to the boos. If you want to know who's for coal, all you have to do is look in these chairs. You can count it. It's real easy to count. Remember what my grandmother said this morning. It doesn't take long. It's plain as the nose on your face, son. See how smart you are. Okay? I want to give you a few quotes that the government needs to remember. Thomas Jefferson, he who knows nothing is closer to the truth than he whose mind is filled with falsehoods and errors. To compel a man to furnish funds for the propagation of ideas he disbelieves and abhors is sinful and tyrannical. The democracy will cease to exist when you take away from those who are willing to work and give to those who would not. Most bad government has grown out of too much government. A wise and frugal government which shall restrain men from injuring one another, which shall leave them otherwise free to regulate their own pursuits of industry and improvement, and shall not take from the mouth of labor the bread it has earned. This is the sum of good government. History in general only informs us of what bad government is. To take from one because it is thought that his own industry and that of his fathers has acquired too much in order to spare to others whose fathers have not exercised equal industry and skill is to violate arbitrarily the first principle of association, the guarantee to everyone of a free exercise of his industry and the fruits acquired by it. A man who has never gone to school may steal from a freight car, but if he has a university education, he can steal the whole train. I don't pity any man who does hard work worth doing. I admire him. I pity the creature who does not work, at whichever end of the social scale he may regard himself as being. The first requisite of a good citizen in this republic of ours is that he shall be willing and able to pull his own weight. The human body has two ends on it, one to create with and one to sit on. Sometimes people get their ends reversed. When this happens, they need a kick in the seat of the pants. Thomas Jefferson. And here's one from Mike Hansel. The definition of an elephant is a mouse built to government specifications. Thank you.
Okay, next speaker, please.
I'm speaker number 67. My name is Erin Savage, S-A-V-A-G-E. I'm a water quality specialist with Appalachian Voices. Since 2010, Appalachian Voices has brought cases against 3 of Kentucky's largest coal companies, ICG, Fraser Creek, and Nally and Hamilton, for nearly 36,000 violations of the Clean Water Act. These violations include falsified discharge monitoring reports, as well as substantive permit limit violations. After these companies began actually testing their discharge and reporting accurately, they reported numbers such as 28 milligrams per liter for manganese, 10 milligrams per liter for iron, 500 milligrams per liter for TSS, and a pH as high as 10. These violations were neither identified by the state of Kentucky, nor were they adequately dealt with once the state was made aware of the problems we found. The state is clearly either unable or unwilling to properly enforce the Clean Water Act. Therefore, the EPA must intervene. The permits in question here admit to having inadequate baseline data for reasonable potential analysis. This hearing is not about disallowing mining in Kentucky. This hearing is solely about water pollution permits. We must remember several thousand general permits were approved in 2009 through the general permit. The number in question here represents only a small percentage. Protecting our water quality is essential to the health of the residents here. Living near mountaintop removal, people are 50% more likely to die of cancer and 42% more likely to have children born with birth defects. The EPA is not destroying coal jobs. Coal jobs in Appalachia have increased by 6% since 2009. The demand for coal is decreasing due to competition from other energy sources such as natural gas. Coal now provides only 36% of the nation's electricity. What Kentucky truly needs is a diversified economy.
Thank you. Thank you. Don't go, wait.
Okay, my name is Matt Wasson. I'm number 66 here. I work for, Appalachian Voices. We represent several thousand members around the central and southern Appalachian region. I'm going to more or less throw away my script because I've had a couple chances to speak before, and just start by saying that, the cell phone in my pocket, about a third of the electricity, the electrons that went into that to charge it came from coal. And I have no interest, nor does my organization, nor does the EPA, I am certain, have any interest in making that electricity go away. We appreciate that electricity, and I want to say thank you sincerely to the miners who have made that possible, who have put their lives at risk, going underground, doing very hard work to make that possible. And I in no way, and nor does my organization or those we work with, want to put you out of work. That is not our intention at all. And, but there's been so much misinformation that we've heard from some of our local political leaders here that it really, it makes me feel for the EPA in a way. You have been imbued, I think, in some people's minds with these almost godlike powers of, how much impact you can have on electricity, on people's jobs. And in reality, this is the free market that's driving most of this. And because of that, I think that we just need to get back to what it really means. EPA, what we're talking about is 36 permits out of hundreds, thousands that have been approved across Appalachia. And if you were to back down now, that would not create one single job because it would not create one bit of demand for more coal. All it would do is give a greater advantage to the most irresponsible operators who do the most damage to the water in the area. So please just keep doing your job, and thanks for being here.
Settle down, settle down. Wait. Next speaker, please.
I am speaker number 71, Frank Thornsberry, Thornsbury. And I'm just a concerned citizen from Johnson County. To the various offices of the EPA, guests, my fellow Kentuckians, today we have heard various means and consequences of denying permits for coal mining in eastern Kentucky. However, in my allotted time, I would like to call attention to the very personal side of systematically strangling the coal industry. Take my 23-year-old friend, Aaron Meek, for instance, whose job was just taken because of the EPA's arbitrary and inconsistent policies. He, his wife Cody, and his 3-year-old son Jacoby depended on Aaron's job as a surface miner to meet their needs. While talking to him before I came here, he went to pains to express that his coal mining job provided an excellent quality of life, and that though dangers existed, those dangers paled in comparison to the love he has for his family and the desire to provide for them. He was also quick to explain that what he did in the mines and the way he did it is the American way. And I agree with him. To go out, work, and provide, always driven by the love for God and country and the idea that if he works hard enough, Jacoby, his son, will face a brighter future. In short, coal is the Meek family's lifeblood. It's all of our lifeblood here in Eastern Kentucky, and that has been taken away already for Aaron. Thus, to cease the existence of the coal industry is to pry away the American dream from the hands of hardworking men and women in Eastern Kentucky. Not to mention that Jacoby, growing up seeing his father work so hard and have his job taken away by big government, that will leave a mark on Jacoby, and that mark says that hard work has no reward. And that's the greatest consequence of all. And the bottom line is that if you take our jobs, in November, we will take yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Yes, my name is David Gent, G-E-N-T. I'm speaker number 68.
Thank you.
And tonight, I work for a company called Zenergy. We have jobs in Virginia, West Virginia, and Kentucky. And because of the regulations that you guys have put upon us, we have lost so many workers. I don't know exactly the number. I'm the foreman for the job in Virginia, but I came over here to speak because we have people coming to my job that have lost their jobs in Kentucky, West Virginia. They know me. I've been around. Everybody calls me Chicken Man. They say, Chicken Man, I need a job. I lost my job. I bought a new house. I bought a new car. And the reason why they've done that is because you guys are not using common sense. If you don't know, common sense says that you will use sound and prudent judgment based on a simple perception of the situation or facts. The facts are, if you don't release those permits, a lot of these people right here will not have a job. And let me ask you something. How much coal have you mined in Atlanta, Georgia? How much coal have you mined in Washington, D.C.? Can you stand there at that door tonight and stand there when these people go by, you reach out your hand and say, I'm sorry, we're going to take your job. And that's what you're going to do if you don't turn loose of these permits. Another thing, one more thing I got to say. Lord God, I hate saying this, but for all the tree huggers, for all you tree huggers, you really want to save a tree? Eat more beavers.
Okay. Next speaker, please.
My name is Mike Trivett. I'm not a politician and I'm not running for any elected office. I'm a local physician in the area. I'm not here to defend or support any coal. My question is simply this. Why are we even having this forum? This is not a fact-finding mission. Your decision's already been made. I think you're here as an extension of the President Obama's administration. President Obama has already said that his goal was to destroy the coal industry. And what he couldn't do through cap and trade, he's doing through you, the EPA. But I want you to understand something. You work for us, and we don't work for you. The problem, understand this, I find it very disingenuous, even hypocritical, for you to take advantage of the benefits of coal and then come and tell us how evil coal is. When you used the electricity, when you drove up in your car was made of steel, which came from coke. And you're taking advantage of the work, the hard work and sweat of the coal miner, and yet you're up here trying to destroy the livelihood of these people. And I find it despicable that you would not even consider. Your mind's made up. You're not here for fact-finding mission. You're here to make us dumb hillbilly coal miners look stupid. But I'm not here to beg crumbs from your table. Understand that. I'm here to ask why you're even bothering to have this session. Your mind's made up. If the coal miners will stand together, if they'll come together and decide this is it, we're not going to run another lump of coal until you guys are on the unemployment line and they stand together as one and shut the mines down. You'll see exactly what coal does. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is the last one. No, it's two. Okay, next speaker, please.
Christy Riggins, that's spelled Christieriggins. I work for Summit Engineering, and I'm an environmental scientist. I'm a degreed environmental scientist concentrated in aquatic resources, and most of my time is spent in the streams and creeks of the Appalachia. By following fair and reasonable guidelines set forth by the state, I have seen with my own eyes coal industries improve the quality of life and the environment while still providing economic development and energy resources. However, the liberty of the mine coal is being threatened by this administration. It is the free market and not the government that is the solution to America's energy needs. Inhibiting the free market only prohibits technology advancement for the efficient use of our natural resources. Recent science brought forth by the EPA is also highly motivated by political interference and funding. There is more science left out than is put in. It is this kind of unfair, unfounded EPA science that is being used to cripple our economy. One speaker mentioned, and are y'all ready for this? Coal mining has caused a decreased life expectancy here in Pike County. And additionally, he stated that employment has increased by 6% in this area. Statements such as this are loaded, stilted claims supported by the EPA and their supporters, and they have the nerve to come here to Pikeville, Kentucky, and state that as scientific fact. The fact is that number of jobs available has decreased. If the same number of jobs were still available now as those that were available when Obama took office, employment would have increased significantly. It seems that the EPA has an agenda that common sense cannot unravel. Being funded by our tax dollars, if we bleed, you bleed with us. We must have our voices heard in November. Change must happen. We will raise our voices and be heard by all and end this tyranny on our coal, on our jobs, and on our liberty. Thank you.
My name is Heather Bryant. BRYANT, number 75. I'm just representing my family. My husband is a coal truck driver. He just got off work, 16 hours driving a truck. Those 16 hours, he only got 4 loads. Now, how is that supposed to help me and my family? You guys will keep pushing and keep pushing. You want clean water? Well, guess what? There's water everywhere. Go find it. But don't take away the jobs of these people around here. They've got families. You guys got families. What would happen if we would come and take your job? Would you like it? No. All you guys want to do is talk statistics. Nobody said why. Why you want to take our jobs? Why do you want to take these men's jobs? These people are supporting their families. Just leave us alone. Go do whatever you guys want to do, but leave these jobs alone, and we'll all be happy.
Number 72, Skip Holmes.
Like most of you up there, I'm not a native of East Kentucky, but having lived here for 18 months, I've gained some insight as to how important coal is to this state and to this entire United States. All I have to do is listen to the coal train that rumbles by my home 10 times a day, pulling 100 cars behind it. That's 1,000 coal cars every day just going on one route. When you see the slogan, "Coal keeps the lights on," that's not just a slogan, that's a fact. Coal provides electric power for millions and millions of households in this country. All our countrymen do is flip the switch and they expect the lights to go on. The day they don't come on, it'll be too late to fix the problem. Green is a nice color and it's a nice concept, but that's what it is right now. It's a concept. Solar, wind, geothermal, nuclear, natural gas, those are all nice concepts, but these have potential. They don't have potential to replace coal in the near term or even the midterm. The recent failure of Solyndra is a perfect example of just how difficult it is to create new renewable sources of energy. It's going to take decades to develop these new sources of energy, and in the meantime, you're killing the one true tested source of energy. Here in the mountains of East Kentucky and West Virginia, coal has been the lifeblood of the region. This state has gone from a high of 47,000 jobs in the industry to under 20,000 jobs today. That number falls every time you reject an application. East Kentucky is blessed and it's cursed by these mountains. They have provided coal to fuel the nation's jobs and create jobs for thousands of miners. But they've also restricted the growth of manufacturing and transportation. Without the mines, this community will be pushed back to limited opportunities of yesteryear.
Thank you.
Before I get started, my name is Mike Baisden. I'm a candidate for the House of Delegates in West Virginia, in the 20th District. That's in southern West Virginia in Mingo County and Logan County. And I'd like to respectfully request that the time on the clock be changed to 4 minutes. If you could change that to 4 minutes.
And why is that?
Well, I just would like to ask that. You can't do that because that's not fair, right? It's not fair for you to change it.
That's right.
Not fair for you to change the rules in midstream. It's not fair to my good friend Bobby, who spoke up here 2 minutes ago, and you gave him 2 minutes, and that's all I want is a fair shot to speak to you all. And I appreciate the opportunity to do that. But now that we're all friends and buddies and we're just talking now, let me ask you this. Do you all really believe that green energy, and by the way, in case you didn't know, solar panels were invented in the 90s, and that's the 1890s. They haven't worked since then. They won't work now, and they won't work 50 years in the future. I don't know what you expect. But I live for the day. I live for the day, ladies and gentlemen, when Mr. Obama is laying laying on a surgical table, and they walk into him and say, well, you know, the commission that approves your operation has said, yeah, you can go ahead and have it. We're just waiting for the clouds to clear out and the wind to pick up so we can operate on you.
Wait 1 second. Okay, next speaker, please.
I'm Speaker 74, Jimmy Rogers, Jimmy-Rogers. I'd like to ask you folks a question. Why are you here? Because I just heard on the news that a commentator said President Obama wants to shut down every coal mining operation in the United States. So I ask you, why are you here? On the evening news, another commentator said the federal government is going to shut down all natural gas drilling. On the news just recently, and you probably know his name, I didn't have time to write it, a former EPA official made the statement, crucify the coal business. I can't find that on my notes right now. It said to crucify the oil and the gas business. So my question is, why do you think the Lord Jesus Christ put the coal in the ground, put the gas in the ground, put the precious minerals in the ground to sit there? He put the coal and the gas in the ground for us to mine it and to get it out to make a living. We have no industries in Pike County except coal and gas. If you shut this down, this will be a ghost town. A ghost town. So we want to see these people work and work efficiently and obey the law, but all I hear on the news is over-regulation, over-regulation. My 7-year-old granddaughter can't even have a lemonade stand. All these 4-lane highways we have, US 460, US 23, US 119, and Kentucky 80. I don't hear anybody from the Sierra Club complaining about these 4 lanes that they did mountaintop removal, but I hear all this crap about the coal mining, that it's bad. Hallelujah.
Thank you. Thank you. Just one sec before you get started.
I'm Winston Oliver, number 79, Winston Oliver, Oliver. First of all, I love Kentucky, especially Eastern Kentucky. I have a tremendous amount of respect for anyone that works in the coal industry. I dream of a Kentucky where the EPA can give grants to universities and local governments to help coal gasification become a reality and clean coal technology. I hope to see someday that we can have these clean coal power plants built right here in this county and all the coal producing counties and export electricity to the United States all over the continent. I also think that it's amazing what mountaintop removal can do as far as development. I think that it can go hand in hand with environmentalists. Why not develop wind farms and solar farms on some of the reclaimed sites? And as far as water goes, I'd like to see the EPA help local utility companies extend water lines to all the people that have bad water that need help with their water. I think that's a solution. And I think that the mountaintop removal sites would make a good tourist attraction. Some of the mines that have already been mined, people come from all over to look at them, I think in Harlan and places. What we do have here needs to be marketed better. People that want to support it, let them support it, you know. There's good on both sides. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker.
Good evening. I'm speaker number 76. My name's Rob Baldwin, B-A-L-D-W-I-N, and I'm a concerned citizen of Southern West Virginia. Much has already been said tonight concerning the devastating economic consequences of EPA's decision to obstruct 36 mining permits in the state of Kentucky and many more in my home state of West Virginia. But what I want to talk about tonight is the scientific justification that EPA uses in their rationale for obstructing these permits. Why haven't any peer-reviewed studies been released that justify implementation of ultra-strict water quality standards for such parameters as selenium and conductivity, many of which the coal industry has to adhere to limits in parts per billion. If such overwhelming scientific consensus exists concerning damage to the aquatic community from these parameters at these concentrations, one would think that this data would be readily available. You would think it wouldn't be too difficult to find it. The absence of readily available data concerning these parameters leads one to believe that the limits enforced by EPA and EPA's objections to mining permits based on potential harm to aquatic life are just an excuse to obstruct coal production and the burning of fossil fuels in the United States. Any reasonable person or agency would not risk further jeopardizing an already fragile economy without having sound, irrefutable data to justify it. And all I want to know is, where is this data? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, my understanding is you're the last speaker. Are there any other speakers that have speaker numbers? Okay, please go ahead.
I'm speaker number 80, David Kirkland, Kirkland. I was born and raised in this area. The coal mines are what brought this area to be what it is, and y'all are trying to strike it down. 51% of our nation's energy comes from coal, of which Washington, D.C., where y'all make these laws, is also powered by coal. So earlier it was asked that y'all turn the lights off, and that was not done. So I assume that y'all do not want to go without your power. Therefore, do not strike down this coal. We need it. Our economy is already fragile. We have unemployment rates not seen since the Depression, and y'all want to further put people out of business. Y'all want to put down these companies that are trying to employ people. And when coal it's not just for power. It's used in insecticides, which help our farms produce food. It's used in charcoal, which we use for our grills. It's used in medicines. For example, if a child ingests something they shouldn't have, charcoal is placed in their stomach to remove it. It's used in it's used in many things. TNT, linoleum that y'all put in y'all's fancy houses up in Washington. It's used in the perfumes that y'all put on y'allself. It's used in ammonia, which we use to clean our homes. It's used in paint. It's not just power. It's used to heat and melt steel so that we can have buildings like this and like we have on Washington. My question to you is, we are the people and we want the coal, so why can't we have it?
Okay. At this time, I'd like to turn it back to Jim Giatina for some closing comments. Jim?
I want to thank you all for your participation both this afternoon and this evening. I know it's been a long day for folks, and we truly do appreciate it. We understand and can feel the passion on all sides of this issue. I can assure you that our minds are not made up on these permits. The comments that we received, both oral and written, as I said at the outset, will be considered and evaluated as we make the final determination regarding the permit objections. After consideration of the record that you've provided to us here and in Frankfort, after we consider again the requirements of the Clean Water Act and its regulations, the regional administrator in Atlanta will make a determination concerning the objections and will notify Kentucky DOW, the districts, and all of you who have provided your address this evening. Again, I thank you for your participation, and we stand adjourned.